All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Found out this last couple days, I guess, yesterday, that I have some wavy curly hair when it gets wet. So I've been waiting to wear my hair down, man. You guys know I've been the hat bandit. I've been wearing a hat for a long time because I got long hair. So finally, Kelsey has freed the hair. It's good to see you guys. We are going to listen. This is a 4-hour process today, and this is going to be hard, but I have prepared. We're probably going to have some people in the house tonight, on in the chat. So what we're going to do is we're going to just listen. It's all audio. So again, it's not going to be the most unbelievably engaging thing. The best part is we are going to have, the ability to pause now, have the conversation, engage, learn. This is the first time that I will ever be engaging and watching this. So it's going to be different for me. Like I said, hopefully when I plug this in does not mute my mic. I am praying. If it does, I will fix it. Forgot to plug it in, guys. I'm sorry. Let me know if you can still hear me. Last time I plugged in the headphones, it got messed up. You guys still hear me? Good. So with that being said, it's 4 hours. This first day is Brandon and Kay. This is audio only. So what we're going to do is I am just going to listen to it, learn about it. We are getting close to working on other cases, as you guys know. So this is going to be different. Now, next thing I want to say, just so you guys know, I haven't announced this on our tab or anywhere else yet. I only did it for our members. But I started a secondary channel, and it is called Alpha Made. It is a fitness channel, and I'm going to be announcing that after our stream today. And I'm really excited about that channel because, for me personally, I have always wanted to share my knowledge in fitness. I was a trainer, I was a master trainer, and I also was a fitness manager at a bunch of different gyms. So I have a lot of experience in fitness, and it also goes with our mental, our mental side of what we talk about here, but I wanted to all incorporate with fitness and really help a lot of people. So I'm excited. I will drop a link for you guys as soon as I possibly can. And, I'm going to take this one slow. A lot of you guys, whoa, Colby, just busting out the shirt on you. Sorry about that one. Sheesh. I didn't expect that. Yeah, I'll let you know right now, Lori, I don't feel that way. If I'm being honest with you, I do not want to have this hanging over my head any longer. This has been years. I didn't listen to it, when it happened. And for me personally, we're so close to sentencing. For me, this is a Band-Aid time. It's time to get this out of the way, be ready to move forward. We're going to talk about other cases, but I just keep thinking to myself over and over and over, how can I talk about other people's families, cases, and everything and invite them on if I've never heard the reality of mine? And it's going to be a hard thing, man. I'm not arrogant to that. It's going to be a hard thing. I prepared myself for this. Courageous for you to do this. Hope you feel our support. I do. You guys are awesome. And I thought about that. I even said maybe it's not good to do it live because it is going to be so hard. But then I thought to myself, I don't really want to do this by myself and just put it out there for you guys. It's not really the point. That's not what I want. I don't want to I want to do this as a group, whoever wants to be here. So it's going to be different, but we're going to do it. We're going to get this passed. It feels almost relieving just to say that, I get to have my own reaction to this in my own time, and I'm finally ready for it. So we're going to get it done, man. Hopefully I don't bust out my shirt again. That was a little embarrassing here. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys more about Alpha Made after this. So we'll save that for this. Let's just jump right in. Let's get started. This is a 4-hour audio. So you guys, we'll pause this time. We don't have a live stream going as far as the live feed. We can pause, we can talk. And again, like I said, I know that this is new for me. So it's going to be different. It's going to be very, very different. So let's just get to it, man. Just get it started, and we're just going to get popping on it. So this is day one. We skipped all the jury selection. We skipped all that stuff. We don't need to listen to that. That's not really important here. So we're just going to jump right into day one and go right there. So I'll be reading your guys' chats. I'll be putting them on the screen. We'll be listening to the audio, and we'll pause when we need to. All right. Let's go.
211624, State of Idaho versus Lori Noreen Vallow. This is the time scheduled for jury trial. The court would note the prosecution is here as well as the defense and the defendant. We'll do more formal introductions here in a moment. The court would note a couple of things. I think the parties have already been advised, as well as all those in attendance. There are some conduct orders that are in effect, both governing conduct within the building pursuant to an administrative order of Administrative District Judge Hippler, as well as a courtroom conduct order that I've issued for both this courtroom 400, as well as the locations where the simulcast is taking place here in Ada County, as well as in Madison County. Importantly, in this courtroom, courtroom 400, I wanted to reemphasize that no re-entry is allowed if you leave during the proceedings. There will be scheduled breaks in the morning and the afternoon and a lunch break. But if for some reason you need to leave while the case is going, then likely you will not be permitted to return to your seat. And secondly, and I will note that in those other simulcast locations, that is not the case. So parties can come and go from those rooms, or observers. On the electronic devices, no electronic devices are allowed in these proceedings and any of the locations I just mentioned to record, photograph, or transmit any sounds or images while this trial is going. So there is, of course, a record being kept every day through the administrative process of the courts.
So I'm not sure what that is. I just want to pause real quick. I'm not sure why they did not allow it initially, and then they allowed cameras for Chads. That's just a little different. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm sure there was a ruling over it. I don't know if Lori did that. We're going to learn about that now. This is all new to me. But, this is whenever we can skip over some of this stuff like this, whenever there's a break, whatever that we don't need to hear, we'll skip.
And that will contain the court's audio for purposes of the record of the case. At this point, I'll just briefly inquire, is the state ready to proceed at this time and have the jury brought in?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Archibald. At this point, then, Mr. Bailiff, if you please bring the jurors in.
There you go. So she didn't want that. Wow, dude. I know this is the past, but this is intense for me. This feels like we're back at square one. This is like a lot. I feel the gravity of this, man, for sure. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, this feels very intense. I don't know why. I mean, I know it's... You know what? We could speed it up, but it might be a little wild. It might sound silly. Let's try it, though. Whoops. Oh, we could turn on subtitles, too, if we wanted to. And then let's speed it to 1.25. All right, it's at 1.25 now. And we don't really need to worry about quality. A lot of administrative noises. Doesn't sound like anything is going on right now. So we're going to try to see where
trial exhibits and administer oaths to you as jurors and to the witnesses. The bailiffs here, deputies Ravello,
Juror number 9.
To be considered as
we don't care about the jury.
Today, please continue. Jury instruction.
No, not that we don't care about the jury, but you know what I'm saying.
Was committed. The proof need not show that it was committed on that precise date. As to their relative importance, may give an opinion on that matter.
Okay, so it's jury instruction.
The County of Madison, State of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Fremont County, Idaho, and as part of a continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan in Madison and Fremont counties, Idaho, did willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Tylee Ryan and to commit grand theft by deception. Count 2, first degree murder. The defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, on or between the 8th and 9th day of September 2019 in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and as part of a common scheme or plan or continuing criminal transaction between Madison and Fremont counties in Idaho, were concerned in the commission of a first-degree murder and did aid and abet in its commission, or, not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or by command compelled another to commit the crime and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being, to wit, did either kill Tylee Ryan and or assist in the killing of Tylee Ryan and or did encourage the killing of Tylee Ryan and or did command another to kill
Thank
Tylee
you,
Ryan
Carol.
in violation of Idaho Code Sections 184001, 18204, 184003, sub A. Count 3, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception.
Holy crap,
The
dude.
defendants, Chad Guy Daybell, Lori Noreen Vallow, and Alex Cox, deceased, and other co-conspirators, both known and unknown, on or between the dates of October 26, 2018, and continuing until January 15, 2020, in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Fremont County, Idaho, and as part of a continuing criminal transaction and common scheme or plan in Madison and Fremont counties, Idaho, did willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Joshua Jackson
Oh,
Vallow,
man.
hereinafter J.J. Vallow, and to commit grand theft by deception. Count 4, first-degree murder. The defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, on or between the 22nd and 23rd day of September 2019 in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, and as part of a common scheme or plan or continuing criminal transaction between Madison and Fremont counties in Idaho, was concerned in the commission of a first-degree murder and did aid and abet in its commission, or not being present, advised and encouraged its commission, or by command compelled another to commit the crime, and did so with malice aforethought, and did so willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, which resulted in the death of a human being, to wit, did either kill J.J. Vallow and or assist in the killing of J.J. Vallow, and or did encourage the killing of J.J. Vallow, and or did command another to kill J.J. Vallow in violation of Idaho Code Sections 184001, 18204, and 18403, sub A.
Whew,
Count
man.
5, conspiracy to commit first degree.
Oh, man. It's just so real, man. It's just a lot. I really hid from this. And man, just hearing it is freaking hard, man. We're not even into the trial. They're just reading the counts. I want to do this, man. I'm telling you right now, even though it's hard, I want to do it. So let's just do it. Let's do it.
Murder. That the defendants, Chad Guy Daybell, Lori Noreen Vallow, and Alex Cox, deceased, on or about October 1st, 2018, through January 15th, 2020, in the County of Fremont, State of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Madison County, and as part of a continuing transaction and common scheme or plan in Fremont counties, Idaho, did willfully and knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree to commit murder in the first degree of Tammy Daybell, did combine or conspire to commit murder, and one or more of such persons did enact to effect the object of the combination or conspiracy.
Yeah.
Count 7, grand theft.
It's a
That
lot
the
of
defendant,
counts.
Lori
dude.
Noreen Vallow, on or between the dates of October 1, 2019 and January 22, 2020, in the County of Madison, State of Idaho, did, as a common scheme or plan or continuing criminal transaction between Madison and Fremont counties, Idaho, by deceit and with the intent to deprive another of property or to appropriate the same to herself or to a third person, wrongfully take, obtain, or withhold, or aid and abet another to take, obtain, or withhold the property of another, to wit, Social Security survivor benefits allocated for Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow, and Social Security child in care benefits allocated for Lori Noreen Vallow in an amount exceeding $1,000, which said funds Lori Noreen Vallow was not entitled and which did belong to the government of the United States of America.
Wow, dude.
This is signed as a true bill this 24th day of May, 2021. Deputy Presiding Grand Juror, Acting Presiding Grand Juror, Fremont
Appreciate you
County,
guys.
State of Idaho. To these charges, the defendant has entered a plea of not guilty.
I had to hear
All
the
right, thank
charges,
you,
man. It's a lot of
Madam Clerk,
charges.
for reading the indictment. Again, I'll remind the jurors, the indictment is simply a description of the charges.
Okay.
It is
So
not
we
a-
know the charges.
Report any concerns about four involved in
We'll
these
skip the
heard a couple
opening
pop
statements.
rings. Defendant having advised
before there's a decision. Vallow was smitten with her, and she with him.
So we're not going to skip that.
we know that on September 9th of 2019, the morning after the last day Tylee is seen, we know Alex Cox's phone is in Chad Daybell's backyard on his property,
dude.
close to where Tylee's remains are found. We also know around that same time, Chad Daybell's phone is there on his property, close to where Tylee's body is found. We also know from other witnesses that Alex Cox would do whatever the defendant and Chad asked him to do. He was loyal to them to a fault.
Appreciate you. Thank
You
you.
have already heard from the state that we have the burden in this case, but I want to reiterate that. We as the state have the burden to prove each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. You have heard that term, and you will hear it again, reasonable doubt. The court is the judge of the law, and the judge will give you the definition of the law. And the judge will specifically provide a definition of reasonable doubt, and you follow his definition. But I will say reasonable doubt is commonly defined as a doubt that would cause a reasonable person to hesitate to act. And I would emphasize reasonable. The defendant is charged with multiple crimes, and you just heard him in the indictment. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft in relation to the death of Tylee Ryan, her daughter. First-degree murder in relation to the death of Tylee Ryan, her daughter. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft in relation to J.J. Vallow, her son. First-degree murder in relation to J.J. Vallow, her son. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in relation to Tammy Daybell, and grand theft for the taking of the Social Security monies. Again, the judge will advise you on the law, but keep in mind that when we talk about the term conspiracy, it is two or more persons combining or conspiring, so essentially a meeting of the minds to commit some crime. And then one of those actors, just one, has to do an overt act in furtherance of that conspiracy. Only one person has to do it, and there only has to be one overt act. What that means is the defendant doesn't have to be the one that physically ended anyone's life for her to be guilty of conspiracy. If you
I'll answer
determine
this
that there
question
was a meeting of the minds and one
100%. This is for me, and for us. You know what we're going to be doing is talking about people's crimes, and it's not for the crimes, it's for the survivors. And that includes anybody who has survived through it, whether it's family members, whatever the case is. To do that though, again, I have to start here. This is already just these charges, listening to the opening statement alone. It's really hard. It makes it back to reality, and it's freaking tough, man. It's the gravity. And I've never heard the charges like this. Like, I don't know how to explain to you other than I just haven't heard this. This is new information to me as far as this is doing it. I promise you that this is not a content thing. I don't need to do that. Like I've told you guys that before. We've worked through this stuff together. And if I wanted to just make content, my channel would be very different. I would just make sensational content, and we just don't do that. So I always just put my heart and soul into what we're doing. And I think that's why our community exists together, because we're all here in a real way. You know, this is not easy. And just listening to the reality of my family and hearing my brother and sister's names in association with Lori's name and Alex's name and Chad's name, it's freaking hard, man. It's just the opening statements. It hasn't even freaking gone on. And, you know, so we're just going to keep going. Way different than I thought it was going to be. Just even hearing the reality of it.
one actor did one overt act in furtherance of that. Similarly, in the state of Idaho, Idaho law allows for someone to be charged as a principal. When someone is charged as a principal to a crime, it can include them directly committing the act, aiding and abetting in its commission, or it can include them having advised and encouraged its commission, or commanding or coercing another to commit the crime. So similarly, when you're hearing about the first-degree murder, the defendant did not have to physically end someone's life for her to be guilty. First-degree murder is deliberate, willful, and premeditated actions causing someone to die. Remind you, and circling back, when Tylee was found, as we talked about, all that was found was charred remains. Tylee's hands are gone. When JJ was found, his hands were bound and duct taped in front of his body. When Tammy was found, those hands, she was described as a computer whiz, never going to do anything on a computer again. And the defendant and Chad Daybell getting married on a beach in Hawaii, starting their life together, all obstacles gone. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I thank you for being here today and your willingness to serve on the jury. We recognize that you do have a task here, and you are the judge of facts. And I would let you know that that is the most important job in this courtroom. This is set to be a long trial, and you're going to sit through a lot of evidence and a lot of testimony. What we ask you to do is be attentive to the testimony and evidence presented. Apply your common sense and reasonableness in weighing the evidence. Give every piece of evidence and testimony the weight you think it is due. Hold us to our burden. And we feel that if you apply your reason and common sense, I'm confident that you will return a verdict of guilty in this case. Thank you.
All right, let's take a second. It's a lot. Like I told you, I don't know a lot of the details. So it's a lot. It's the reality. It's the reality. They really wanted to kill everybody. That was what they wanted. And that's really hard for me to hear. But we have to remember, and what I think I sometimes do a poor job as, just remembering to add in Tammy. You know, we did react on the channel talking about Chad's kids, talking about their mom. And I never want to step into a place where I don't know Tammy, but I feel for her and I feel for the family members that realize what happened to her. And you just have to look at this, that, you know, this was a group that was killing a lot of people. And, you know, they put a lot of pressure. It's hard to be, I feel for the jurors always. I feel for every single juror. There's been 4 juries and there's a lot of people, you know, in this group. It's a huge group of jurors in all these different cases. And it breaks my heart for them, because like this would not be easy for anybody to listen to. And that's their opening statements, is explaining how a woman killed her children and her man killed his wife and woman killed her husband with her brother. Like, and then I have to, it just hits me because it's their names. And it just, sometimes I've told you, it's hard to remember how real it is. So we're going to keep going, man. We're going to get through this. Thank you, Roxy.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. That will conclude the opening statements for the state of Idaho. Will the defense be giving an opening statement now, or do you wish to defer until later?
I'll give one now, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. You can present your opening now.
I don't know if I necessarily want to hear his defense.
Like the state of Idaho, I also thank you for your service. This is a difficult case we have not been able to settle without you. That's why you've been called here.
Let's see what this dude, you know what? I was going to skip over this, but let's see how this defense is going to say what she didn't do. How do you even defend
the court
this?
will allow a brief introduction. I know a lot about you with your 12-page or 20-page questionnaires. So I'd like to just make a brief introduction of the defense. I've been an attorney since 1991. I've been both a private attorney and a public defender. And in small county Idaho, there's a lot of us lawyers who do both public defense work and private work. And so over the past 32 years, I've done a bit of both. I've been assigned to 27 murder cases over the course of my career, and they're difficult. They're difficult. And so some people are really upset by what I do for a living. And so I appreciate you and your ability to. And she also has a sister and a brother still in Texas, Arizona, and Hawaii. She lived in Idaho for less than a month before the events of what you're here to decide. She's one of 6 children. Her parents are still alive. They're retired. She's had an older sister and a brother die, and she also has a sister and a brother still living. She believes in life after death. She believes she will see her deceased family, including her children, again.
Oh,
she's a beautician by trade. She's worked hard for years in that profession. She's a mother of 3, stepmother of 2, and is now a grandmother of 2 children.
You guys are helping me,
show that people were attracted to her as the state has told you, have been attracted to her pretty smile, her vivacious personality,
What the hell?
fun-loving, happy-go-lucky.
You go into her beauty and her freaking beautiful smile. This dog must have been freaking crushing.
Personality. People wanted to be around her. Her oldest son is
She's
Colby
not a
Ryan. He was born in 1996 in Texas.
Why don't you keep my name out your
He's a
mouth?
handsome young man, currently lives in Arizona. He has 2 children of his own, making Lori a grandma. Her oldest daughter, Tylee Ryan, was born in 2002 in Texas. She was a ray of sunshine. She had health problems,
Oh, shut the hell up,
pancreatitis,
dude.
painful and debilitating disease, but Tylee did the best she could.
Yeah, until she was killed by you.
Her marriage to Joe Ryan ended and a painful, long, drawn-out custody battle ensued. And it was hard on all of them.
Thank you.
The evidence will show that her next husband,
You
Charles
never
Vallow,
cuss.
was smitten with
You
her.
never cuss, Kelsey. This is not funny, dude. This is horrible. Can you imagine her? So this is the thing I think, right? This is what's interesting. And as far as just like watching what we know now, she literally was telling him exactly what she wants him to say. She would have said all of this herself. She wanted this to be said so badly, but she thought she had a chance. And you know why she was so serious until she was convicted? She literally had she thought she might be making out of it, so she was careful. Once she got convicted, she said, F it, I'm going to be my own lawyer. Because she knew she couldn't lose. Well, I knew she knew she couldn't do anything else, so she'd rather just take the time for herself.
And she with him. He had 2 kids. She had 2 kids. And the blended family lasted over a decade. Lori was such a good, responsible mother to her 2 children that her husband's sister, Kay Woodcock,
Oh my
wanted her
gosh.
to adopt a special needs toddler newborn. Kay Woodcock was the grandma to a child born in Louisiana in 2012, a child with special needs. The child's parents couldn't take care of him because of their own personal problems. Apparently, Kay Woodcock couldn't take care of him either. So she asked her brother, Charles, and his wife, Lori, if they would adopt him, and they agreed. So the child born in Louisiana to struggling parents was adopted by Charles and Lori Vallow in 2014, and he became known as J.J. Vallow, Lori's 3rd child. The evidence will show that Lori was a dutiful wife to Charles Vallow. They both worked hard, he at the office and she at home. She was a kind and loving mother to her children.
Oh, she wrote this for
Evidence
him? She wrote a statement that she was all these
Will
things.
show she had a
Nerd.
particular interest in religion in the end of times. You will recognize the quote-unquote end of times as something spoken of in the Holy Bible, the New Testament. Most of you will understand when I say that. Some people could care less about biblical prophecies. Some people care a lot about it. Thankfully, in this country, we get to worship how we choose.
Not
The
when you
evidence
worship.
will show
Oh, the evidence will show. The evidence will show that you're a murderer. You never cuss. I can't believe you said that. Yeah, no, that pisses me off too. To be a grandma.
She's never been a grandma.
She never even met Ava and saw
not
Riley
even
how many
considered a
times?
grandma.
How many times? Never.
Riley a couple times.
That's what I'm saying.
Kylie was around Riley more.
I know. Sorry, that was Kel. I needed a ghost. She's very, very sweet. She brought me one. We're going cherry limeade on him, baby. We're going cherry limeade on him. And no, we're not sponsored by Ghost, but they might as well because we be drinking them every day. I always drip on my shirt. All right. Let me just put this way. I'm trying to emotionally regulate while we're doing this, right? She's ridiculous. And now that we know that she tried to be her own lawyer, we know that this must have been written by her. She sucks. And I'm not going to say anything else about this guy. He's doing his job. Let's just remember, when it comes to these lawyers, it's a tough thing. When it comes to defense lawyers, you know, they're doing their job. Unfortunately, if you got to put yourself in his shoes. If you're forced to do this or paid to do this, what the heck are you supposed to say? You're supposed to pretend that, you know, do your best. I don't know. I'm not going to go at him. You know, I was upset when I was being questioned by him personally. We'll get into that at some point. You know, I actually just thought of that. I forgot that I testified in these. So, Anyway, let's get back to it.
That once Lori and her friends met Chad Daybell, an author on religious subjects, her beliefs began to morph and to change. And that's where you come into the
I
story,
bet.
because the stories diverge. So we haven't been able to agree on what happened, and we need you to decide it. So what happened? How did these children die?
Oh,
Who
here
was
we go.
involved? When did it happen?
The bad job.
Where did it happen? Why? Why did it happen? The judge has read to you the allegations, the charges. And
We'll get you
so
one, man.
they were read to you 2 weeks ago when you showed up to fill out your questionnaire. They were read again today. And I'm going
Exactly.
to read parts of them again, because I think it's important to see what she's charged with. You don't have to write these down, by the way. The jury instructions will be with you in the jury room. Some of you are really good note takers, and some of you will let others take notes. But you don't need to memorize what I'm telling you, because these will be printed out and handed to you in the jury room. So the charge of conspiracy: Chad, Lori, Alex, deceased. Other co-conspirators.
I do have to say, and this is not to be disrespectful, but this man could put me to sleep in about 5 minutes by reading me a book. Just saying. Okay.
Both known and unknown. So Chad Daybell is not on trial here.
This guy would be really good at nature shows. You know what I mean? Talking about how the walrus walks down and lays down for an afternoon nap.
Alex Cox is not on trial here. He's deceased. Other co-conspirators, I don't know much about that. Both known and unknown. So again, your focus will be on the actions of Lori, not on Chad, not on Alex, not on co-conspirators, both known and unknown.
Yeah.
So that's the conspiracy. I think first-degree murder. The allegations contained in the charge that the judge read to you was Lori Vallow concerned in the commission of first-degree murder. Did she aid and abet? Did she assist somehow? Or the language of the charge says, or not being present. Did she advise and encourage it to happen? Or by command, compelled another? So
I can answer?
this charge is, did she kill? Or did she assist? Or did she encourage?
Are you going to answer?
Or did she command? So in other words, this charge is saying they're not sure what happened, but yet they want you to be sure. The same with count 3.
You know
and
what?
Count 4.
This is at 1.25. Imagine if I slowed it down. Look at
Count
this. I'll prove it.
5.
Look at this. Let's
with
slow. This is
Tammy.
normal.
Did she combine or conspire
Is
to
it
commit murder?
Is that slow-mo? Let's go 1.5.
Did she do the murder? Or did she talk about it? Or did she do something about it? Or did she do an act in furtherance of it?
That's better.
So that's the challenge here for you, is you're going to be given all these alternatives, and you're going to have to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. I didn't make up the definition for reasonable doubt, neither did the judge, neither did the prosecutors, but that's our law. He read it to you 2 weeks ago and again this morning, and here it is. Under our law and system of justice, every defendant is presumed to be innocent. This means 2 things. First, the state has the burden of proving the defendant guilty. The state has that burden throughout the trial. The defendant is never required to prove her innocence, nor does the defendant ever have to produce any evidence at all. The state must prove the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is not mere possible or imaginary doubt. It is a doubt based on reason and common sense. It may arise from a careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence, or from lack of evidence. So if you have a lack of evidence,
Appreciate you. Like your
and that's
profile picture
reasonable
too.
to you, you're our reasonable people here for the next month. That's a reasonable doubt. If after considering all the evidence or the lack of evidence, you have a reasonable doubt about Lori's guilt, you must find her not guilty.
Oh man, You're not wrong. Yeah, you can tell.
I'm sorry, all these papers in here, I lost my way.
This is slow as frick, and it's on two.
So there's something called an alibi that was filed as part of this response, part of these allegations.
Shirts are freaking falling apart.
So
Oh,
here's the
shoot.
alibi that was filed on Lori's behalf.
The whole shirt came undone.
Lori Vallow
Sorry.
was in her own apartment in Rexburg, Idaho, when J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan died in the apartment of Alex Cox in Rexburg, Idaho.
She never said that. Oh my. First of all, I'm sorry. This is not a time to be joking around at all, but my shirt is literally popping off as we speak. This might not be the shirt to wear. I'm sorry. Every time I freaking take a deep breath, the shirt pops open. So with all that wildness, sorry, I feel bad. I feel like I'm embarrassed because every time I like move up and down, my shirt pops open. So here's the deal. She never said that to me. She never mentioned that they died in Alex's apartment. So that just, to me, if that's the story she's trying to sell to everyone else, that means that Alex took everybody to his apartment and killed them in his apartment. Right? So, gosh dang it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's no way that she never said that. She never told me that. So that's interesting that she put that. Yeah, sorry guys. I got us all distracted. It's my fault. It's just one big, for whatever reason, one came undone. I went to fix it. Wasn't gonna say anything, and then they all popped open, and the whole shirt started opening up. I'm sorry. My bad. You think that we were so bored listening to what he just said, and I just said, "Frick this! I'm gonna do a little chest pop." So sorry about that. But yes, that was the point. So why did they have that extra apartment? It's interesting when Ray testified, and this is why it's weird because we now have this like full picture. When Ray testified how they searched the apartments, Ray was discussing, he was discussing how they found an empty apartment. What was that apartment for? What was that apartment for? You know what I mean? That was just insane. That's insane to think that they actually plotted this. Like, to me, it wasn't like they didn't plot it, but you just don't realize how much planning there was. You just don't think of it in that way. For some reason, it was almost like maybe it was more on the fly in a sense. Dude, I might have to go change. If this pops open one more time, I'm going to put a t-shirt on. I'm sorry about this. This is embarrassing. Every time. And there's no reason for it to pop like this, but it's just freaking popping off. My bad. Okay. So with that being said, that's really interesting detail I did not know. Guys, I'm sorry. I just didn't genuinely feel like bad that this is just that my shirt is just popping off. It's embarrassing. I've worn the shirt. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, maybe I've been on the Ray pills, man, which is actually funny. You guys got to follow the fitness channel, man. I'll talk to you about it after this. This is not the time for it, but we'll get under there. Yeah. So this is interesting too. I've done I'll theorize with you for just 1 second. One thing I've thought is, if Alex were alive, who would have thrown who under the bus? And if I'm being honest with you, I think all three of them would have thrown all three of each other under the bus. It would have just been the same thing if Alex was alive and arrested. He would be constantly telling them, hey, this is Chad and Lori's fault. And then, they'd be saying it's Alex's fault. That's what they did. So that's where we're at right now. I really do believe if he was alive, he would have done the same thing. They all just throw each other under the bus. It's just easier, I guess.
Lori was with Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, or Chad Daybell. And Lori was in Hawaii when Tammy Daybell died at the home of Chad Daybell.
That's not true at all.
Idaho. Lori was with Melanie Boudreau or Audrey Baratario in Hawaii. So that's the alibi filed in this case. And a lot of jurors were excused in this case because of pretrial publicity. We asked you a lot of questions about that, what you knew, what you heard, what if you can set it aside. And so far, still no evidence has been presented to you. So my client is still presumed innocent. And the publicity that has tainted so many
Maybe
people
Alex,
throughout the county, through the state, through the nation,
if I'm being
that's
honest.
not evidence. And so I appreciate all of you stating that anything that you may have heard, a lot of you didn't hear anything. So thank you. But for those of you who did hear something, you can set that aside and start this trial with Lori with a clean slate.
Thank you, baby. I love you.
You're here to focus on what she did,
Love you.
not on what Chad
Thank you.
Daybell did or what Alex Cox did. You're here to determine if there even was.
Hold on one second, guys. Are you really? I got my headphones on too. Can you shut the door? Thank you, baby. I love you. Riley, gosh, dude, I might have to go freaking pop this shirt, another shirt on. This is wild. Riley brought me, guys, and this is just real life. Yes, is this hard? Are we gonna work through this hard stuff? Yes, but there's also life happening. So Riley brought me Kelsey's little gourmet meal. This is part of getting fit, man. You gotta have something, dude. This freaking button, I swear my life, bro. I'm sorry. I'm not even gonna bring attention to it. If it does again, I don't want to pause for too long if we don't have to, because this is a long video to do. So I'm just gonna keep doing it. Anyway, this is another thing I try to remind myself of. No matter how hard this is, and how much I wish that Tylee and JJ and Charles were here, and I wish that Tammy was there for her family, and I wish that this never happened. The reality is I still have a life I have to live, and I still have my family and my kids, and I'm doing this so I can be a better version of myself, and I'm facing hard things because I want to teach my kids they can do this. And I want us to all know as a group, and I don't want to just jump into a different tangent, but just so you guys know that you can do hard things and I can do hard things. So I just want you guys to know that, and I don't want there to be, I think that's a reason why we're doing this too as a group. We did it last time, and we're doing it too. We're doing it again, and we're doing it in a really, 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 really hard one. I mean, they're all hard. This is the one I think I was terrified of, but it also could have been the timing, because I was a lot more prepared because of these trials, because I knew they happened. Not that I had listened to them, that Charles was going to happen. So anyway, we're going to keep going. It's got a lot to get through in the next couple weeks, so I don't want to pause too much.
Conspiracy cases, again, can be solved with evidence. They can be solved with lack of evidence. And when there's lack of evidence, the law calls it not guilty. You said you would be fair and impartial. You said you would have an open mind to not judge her until you heard all the evidence in this courtroom. You said you would do your duty, and I believe you. If what the state has alleged here cannot be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, you said you would find her not guilty. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, that was a long one. All right, we'll go back to 1.2 just because it's not as whatever. So I did not know how this
Thank you,
works.
Mr. Archibald.
We have Kate,
the opening statement
and
of the
Brandon.
defense. In just a moment,
Right
we'll
off the
take
bat.
a mid-morning break.
Yeah.
Pursuant again to our order in this courtroom.
You know
You're
what's
allowed
so
on the
wild?
break
They
to-
threw her under the bus, but she wanted to protect him. And you know what? The first time I ever saw that video with Nate, it looked like, and I think there's another one where somebody was chasing them down. They're walking down that way, and she stood here, and he was on the inside. So like common courtesy in my mind, and always what we do, and I'm not trying to gloat here, but when you're walking with your wife or your kids or anybody, you as the man always stand on the outside of the curb, and your wife or your kids or whoever stands on the inside of the curb, because you want to walk with them and make sure that they're protected if anything were to happen. So like if someone veers off, you can get them out of the way. In this exact moment, the first thing I noticed is that he was on the inside and she was on the outside, and she was answering questions and protecting him. So I don't even know why that. I remember just noticing that right off the bat, the positioning, and I remember her acting like the thing. And then it's almost the same thing when Nate was doing it too. Actually, when you do that, you go and he puts the mic up, and she's on the outside again. So I don't know. I just feel like that's, well, yeah. I mean, let's be honest, dude. Like, I try not to just go crazy on people, but like that might be the most, like, I'm just gonna say that dude's soft. That dude can't lift a tire. That dude can't freaking. That dude is just hides behind everybody else and makes everybody else do anything. Like, that's not a man, dude. That's not a man. And that's not disrespectful to say it. Like, you're just not. So It just is what it is. Kelsey said, so you guys know, Kelsey made some flame. This is my favorite thing in the world. This is pasta salad, but it's like Greek pasta salad. So it's like olives, tomatoes, cucumbers, and salad, and then feta cheese, or I'm sorry, pasta and feta cheese. And then she made the roasted stuff. So we're going to get into that at some point after this. But yeah, that dude was a let's have a henchman. And some reason, okay, I'm just going to give you an actual dynamic of this. Lori is more dominant in my opinion here, more than I thought. But also protects Chad because she can see that Chad is soft, but she thinks that Chad's some type of holy man and some kind of, from what I understand, Chad was being called, he called himself the second son of God, like Jesus level. So like Jesus and him were equal. It's just unbelievably blasphemous, right? You get to that point now where you look at how she protected him, and then they had their dynamic. They led a lot of that group, which I did not know how involved this group was. It was really easy to just blame them, but there's a lot more people here, and we'll get into that too. But you had Alex, who was willing to do whatever they say, and Alex was willing to be a henchman. So they had a very, honestly, organized group. They had an organized group, and I never realized how organized the group was because they actually had different people playing different roles in this group, and that's just pretty crazy. So exactly. Well, and he freaking worshipped the ground she walked on. And, I'm sure that made her feel whatever, disgusting. So when it's James and Elena, frick this, we're not watching that.
Leave and then be reseated once the break is done. One comment I wanted to make as it related to the note taking and what was said in openings, and I'll confirm that you will be provided all of the instructions at your deliberations. This is a long trial. And so I wanted to confirm that is in fact the case.
Great
that
idea.
The instructions that provide both the law, the charging language of the indictment, and other things will be provided to you in copies there. So don't worry that you need to get all that down in notes
Alex
during the course of the
man.
trial. So with that in mind, then I believe the state will have its first witness ready to call after the mid-morning break. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct.
I hope you guys
who will
know.
be conducting the first examination of the witness.
That will be Rob Wood.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Well, with that in mind, then let's go ahead and
Wow.
take our mid-morning recess. And one last thing, I do appreciate very much the way everybody has conducted themselves during this trial thus far. Keep an eye on that as we
Sorry, we're going to skip this.
again at this forward.
Have you lived there?
All my life.
So
Please be seated.
skip it. So this is Kay. Skipped over it. Kay is going to now give her testimony. This is crazy. For day one, Kay was up on the stand ready to testify. Holy crap, dude. That's a lot. That's very intense.
All right, Mr. Wood, the state can call its first witness.
Thank you. The state calls Kay Woodcock.
Ms.
That's how you
Woodcock,
say
if you
that.
please come forward, and I'll have you pause out here when you get to the middle and raise your right hand.
That is stupid good.
All right, if you'd please pause there for a moment, raise your right hand, and I'll have you placed under oath.
I feel for Kay, and this was years ago, and I still feel it. I still
Okay,
feel the
you can be
intensity.
seated in the witness box up here.
It's hard. This is a hard place to be, and this was probably this is our first time doing it, so this is really, really not fun.
All right, counsel, before you inquire, just to make clear, we are making a stenographic record of the proceedings. Please answer questions verbally with a yes or a no instead of gestures. Try not to talk at the same time as anyone asking you a question. And with that in mind, Mr. Wood, you may inquire.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the court and spell out your last name?
Ethel Kathleen Vallow Woodcock. I go by Kay.
Oh, Ethel.
Last name is
Who's
Woodcock.
Ethel?
Thank you.
That's her.
Ms. Woodcock, where do you reside?
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Okay, how long have you lived there?
All my life, pretty much.
All right. Ms. Woodcock, do you have any children?
Yes.
How many do you have?
2.
Have either of those children ever had a child they were unable to care for?
Yes.
No.
Okay, let me ask you about that. Which of those children had this child they couldn't care for?
My son, Dennis Todd Trahan.
I'll answer this question real quick. No, I think that he wanted to do whatever they said because they manipulated him spiritually. If I'm being honest with you, I think Alex this is a sad truth. We'll get into this as a whole nother video. I think Alex was a troubled human being. And I think that Alex wanted more than anything to actually be loved. And I think he wanted somehow to redeem himself because, you know, you guys know this probably already. It's not uncommon knowledge, but he was excommunicated from the LDS church when he was a member of the church. He was, you know, he just did a lot of things I'm sure he was regretful of. And so I think what Lori knew actually more than anybody and was able to probably convince Chad of if they were discussing it, is that Chad and Lori knew that Alex was susceptible spiritually. And what they could have probably convinced him of is that he was, like he was doing this was a spiritual journey. I do believe of anybody who actually believed in this cause, who actually was more spiritually like whatever, believed it, right? More from a spiritual perspective. I think that Alex was the most deceived in that way. I think Alex really thought like he believed them. He just didn't have a lot of logic. I think that he was just like, oh, okay, this is my chance. I get to redeem myself. I'm going to do the hard things. I'm going to do this. And it's sick. It's a sick thing. But also you do have to look at it from, there's more here. I haven't heard the trial yet. So this is my take. This is my opinion here. I don't know if this is true, but we're going to keep going. We'll see. But I think he was the most actual believer. I think he believed it the most of anybody. And that's why he was actually able to do it. Yeah, 0. I mean, this is my thing. Again, we just give our take on it. My thing is this, like, how do you hear this and just not like run it by anybody else? Yeah, he's a follower. Exactly. That's exactly right. And they had people who seemed sure of themselves. I'm sure Chad was convincing. I don't know how. I'll never understand it. But so let's keep going, guys. It's a long
And
one.
what was the
You
Let me
don't
check.
need to be close to it.
I don't know if that
It's not mobile.
I'm wondering if it's working. Okay, it is picking up a signal. So
Okay.
if you could just try to, I guess, speak right into it. Hopefully
Yeah.
we can pick you
Okay.
up on audio. Thank you.
okay?
My guy's here.
What was the name of the child who had a child they couldn't care for?
Dennis Todd Trahan.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Tell me about that situation. What occurred?
He and his girlfriend Mandy Leger had issues, and neither she got pregnant. They couldn't take care of him, of Kanan, JJ. He was born. When he was born with drugs in his system.
Yeah.
Okay. When was this child born?
May 25th, 2012.
Okay. And what was the child's name?
Kanan Todd Trahan.
Thank you. Now, you stated he had drugs in his system. Were there any other complications?
He was born at 30 weeks. That's 10 weeks premature. He had a myriad of issues. I can't, I'm not a doctor. I can't explain all of them, but he was in neonatal ICU for 7 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks.
Okay.
That's the thing that's so hard, and I've tried to explain to people. Like JJ fought for his life. Like JJ was a miracle child. Like there's so many babies, man. I don't even want to get into that because that's just too hard to talk about it. But like there's just not a lot of kids who could survive that, and that's unfortunate and it's horrible. But JJ survived all of that, and he made it out, man. And he was such an incredible kid. He was he's just so strong. And like, I didn't know the miracle because I didn't understand that. I was like 17, but yeah, it's people need to understand what a miracle JJ was in the first place. So
After he left the hospital, where did he live?
He came home with myself and my husband, Larry.
Okay. And can you state Larry's name for the record?
Larry James Woodcock.
Okay. And why did he come home with you?
The state took custody of Canaan when he was born because of the drugs in the system. And we were deemed as his caregivers until they gave the Todd and Mandy a chance to work out their plan that they help them try and become, independent. Yeah, the
Okay.
state gave them to us.
Were Todd and Mandy ever able to regain custody of Canaan?
No,
Okay. How long did you have Canaan?
we got him in early July of 2012, and Charles and Lori got him in mid-February of 2013.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. Who is Charles?
My
So
brother.
they have to lay the foundation. You have to always remember, and I'm learning this about court because we're going to talk about court a lot. Learning about foundation and how you have to paint a picture of who each person is. And like, it's weird for us because we already know all this stuff, but it's laying foundation. So it's just interesting to hear how court works. But I'll tell you this as well. It kills me to hear JJ's birthday again because you just remember that he was killed in 2019. Like 2012 to 2019 is no time at all. That's not a life. It's not even enough to be a child. So it's hard to hear the dates again.
What is his full name?
Leland Charles Anthony Vallow,
Okay. And who is Lori?
his wife.
Okay. And what was her name?
Lori.
Full name.
Well, when I knew her, it was Lori Ryan. So Lori Ryan Vallow.
Okay. Is Lori Vallow in this courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point to where she's sitting and describe what she's wearing for the court?
She's sitting there at the defendant's table, I guess in a black jacket.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would ask the court to take notice that the defendant has been identified.
It's so noted in the record.
So let's go back. You stated that you had Canaan until around February of 2013.
Yes.
And I believe you stated that Charles and Lori took Canaan at that point.
Yes.
Exactly.
Why did they take Canaan?
They were granted legal custody.
Okay. Did you ask them to take custody of Canaan?
No, actually, it was Charles and Lori approached us, and Larry and I were going to be given the option to adopt him first before anyone, and then Charles and Lori approached us saying that they would love to adopt him if he was talked very gingerly about it because it was a very sensitive subject, and we, I was like, look, we'll think about it, but we just have to think about this. That's a big decision. And
Okay. In the end, did Charles and Lori adopt Canaan?
yes,
And why did you allow that to happen?
they seemed, well, number one, Charles wanted, I need to back this up with that other question, if I may. They wanted to have a child of their own. He had 2 kids, she had 2 kids. They wanted to have a child together. Anyway, sorry, ask your question again.
They never mentioned that.
Oh,
I'm just going to give you guys context as I listen. I've never heard them say they wanted a child. I don't know. I remember when my mom, so I'll give you guys a little background. Let me have a tomato here. I went down fast, huh? So yeah, we were like, I don't know. We were I was 16 or 17, probably 17 when we went to go see JJ for the first time. I told you guys, full disclosure, I thought my mom was crazy and Charles were crazy for adopting a baby. There were some deeper issues there that I didn't realize till I was older. That might be a different time for a different video. But as a 17-year-old, I thought to myself, why would you have a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, a Zach, 16, 15, 16? Tylee's already, how old was Tylee? If he was 7 or he was just born, she's what, 8 or 9? Yeah. So the reality is that they adopted him, and I'm thinking to myself, why would you bring a baby into our lives? Like we're all older. We're all about to be out of the house within a certain amount of time. At least the older few, and then Tylee's the last one. Why would you get a baby? It just didn't make any sense to me. I was upset, and I'll be honest with you. I realized that I was more upset that I did not trust Lori, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that till I worked through it through therapy. But I was like, why would you ever take care of another child? why would you ever try to do this? And the problem is, I think that they both were earnest about it. I think they both wanted to take care of JJ and heard the situation and knew that we could give them a home. And we had children in our home. It was me and Tylee, and we could have a family. So, but my take on it was at the time that it was a bad idea. So it was really hard. But then, I fell in love with JJ instantaneously. And, he became such a focal point of our family for the rest of his life. So,
Why did you allow Charles and Lori to adopt Kanan?
They had a much different lifestyle than Larry and I did. All we did was work and work and go home. They were a busy lifestyle. They were very family oriented. Lori was active in the community. Charles was active. They were very active in the church. She just seemed to be the kind of mom that every mom wants to be.
Okay. And so did that adoption take place?
Yes.
Okay. When Kanan was adopted, did he move from Lake Charles, Louisiana?
Yes.
Where did he go?
They moved to Chandler, Arizona,
Okay.
where they were living.
And is that in Maricopa County?
Yes.
When Kanan was adopted, did his name change?
Yes.
Do you know what his name was changed to?
Joshua Jackson Vallow.
Okay.
gosh, dang it.
And
Give me a
did
second.
Joshua go by a nickname?
I
JJ.
might have to go
Okay.
for sure. This is ridiculous. Putting this
So,
15,000.
Just for clarity's sake, I'll refer to him as JJ from here on out.
Okay.
Did you and Larry Woodcock maintain a relationship with JJ after he was adopted?
Yes, actually, that was a condition of the adoption, was that we had to maintain access to him and maintain our grandparent role, which they were very glad. They were good with that, Charles and Lori.
Okay. And so JJ was living in Chandler, Arizona, and you were in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Yes,
How often did you see JJ?
every chance we could.
Okay. And how often was that?
We flew out there I know when they left with him in February of 13, we were out there less than a month later because we were having a very hard time detaching from him. We missed him really badly. But then anytime, it averaged about every 3 months when they were in Arizona that we were able to go visit.
Okay. After they adopted JJ, did Lori and Charles ever move from Arizona?
It's an XL, dude. I don't know why it's doing this.
Yes, they moved to Hawaii,
Okay. Where in Hawaii did they move?
Princeville,
Okay. Do you know what island that's on?
Hawaii.
Once they moved to Hawaii, were you able to maintain contact with JJ?
Yes.
Approximately how often would you maintain contact with JJ?
Since Hawaii was a much bigger flight, a much longer flight to get to. So yes, I went, averaged out every 5 to 6 months, and I would stay, or if Larry was with me, we would stay like at least a week and maybe 10 days, a week to 10 days.
Okay. Did you have any other type of contact with JJ through phones or digital contact?
Oh, when he learned to FaceTime, yes, he FaceTimed us all the time,
Okay.
and the phone too. He would call us all the time.
All right. What was your relationship like with Charles and Lori?
It was good. I mean, Charles and I were very close. He was my brother, and we always got along. We were very close, and Lori, she was just a doll. We were good friends. We talked, all
Hey,
the
hold on. I
time.
want to say this. I know we can tell. This is what I want you guys to understand. We're setting a tone here. This is how our channel's been. Yes, I'm gonna answer this one, but I just want you guys to know we're setting a tone here. It's okay for us to feel all these different emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh. It's okay for us to have fun while we're listening to this. It doesn't mean we're being disrespectful to my family. My family knows I love them, whether they're here or in heaven, and I'm not ever laughing at any of the hard things. I think you need a balance. I think, and I hate to use this analogy, but like in scary movies, they even give you a break. You know what I mean? Like even in scary movies, they'll do something funny or like break the tension up and give you a warm moment, because you can't just take straight down trajectory of just pain. So we can laugh at the fact that my shirt has probably popped 15 times. We've got Ray in the house. That's another thing I wanted to say. Oh, you said it right as I said it. Ray's in the house, man. And we all know what he has done here. There goes my shirt. Swear my life, I'm going to snap. But Ray's in the house, and you know, we take this with a lot of sensitivity, you know, with that stuff, but we know that this is something that's good that's happened. We know that we've worked through this. We know that we've you know, become better people, and we're going to continue to be better. And this is something that we have to face here, for me at least personally. So that's what it is. But we used to get JJ, when he finally got his iPad or anything of that nature, he would call us endlessly. I mean, 15 to 16 FaceTimes back to back. And then you'd answer him, and he'd hang up, and then he'd call you right back, and he'd be in the backyard, and he'd just tell you everything he's doing. And they were just the best things ever. So let's give Ray a round of applause. We know there's some hard stuff coming up too with Ray. I know it's coming, so I'm not fully prepared, but I am. So if that makes any sense, I don't think you can ever prepare for it, but you know that you're going to face it. So we'll just give Ray a round of applause. You know what he's done for my family and everything of that nature. Okay, you're lucky I have fast reflexes. Chelsea threw me a shirt. Yeah, good idea. I'm gonna just put the shirt on in front of everybody. That's what we'll do, huh? Take it off. If it keeps popping, I'm gonna have to do it, but we got a lot going on over at this house. So thank you guys for showing Ray some love. He deserves it. So yeah, we're gonna keep going through it, man. This is a long one. We got about another few hours, so we'll get through it, but just wanted to give him a shout out, man. He deserves it.
I mean, we didn't make a lot of phone calls between each other, but when we saw each other, it was very, it was like we had missed a day of not talking.
Okay. Did you ever spend time with other members of her family?
Yes.
Okay. Did Lori have any other children?
Yes.
Do you recall who they were?
Yes. Colby Ryan and Tylee Ryan.
Okay. Who was oldest?
Colby.
Okay. Did you ever meet other members of Lori's family?
Yes, there were some birthday parties and things, maybe 4th of July stuff, but yes, I did.
Who do you recall meeting?
Her parents, Barry and Janice Cox. She had a brother, Alex Cox, and her other brother, Adam Cox.
You guys give me 1 second.
Anybody else in the family you recall meeting?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
I'm going to leave this up for you.
You mentioned
I'll be
Alex
right back.
Cox. Do you know approximately how many times you met Alex Cox?
A handful of times, maybe. Sometimes he would stay with them, and so I would see him when I went to visit.
Okay. To your knowledge, is Alex Cox living or deceased?
Deceased.
Do you know approximately when that happened?
December 12th, 2019.
Okay. Did Charles and Lori ever move back from Hawaii?
Yes.
When was that?
It was around Christmas or New Year's of 2016.
Okay. And did you maintain a visit? Did you continue to visit JJ in Arizona when they moved back?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Did you ever see Tylee at the home?
We did. Excuse me. Yes, she was around there. She was being her good little sister self to JJ. She would often go to her grandparents while we were there. I don't know why that was, and as she got older, she was busy with her friends and stuff. But absolutely, we spent time together.
Okay. What did you observe in the relationship between Lori and JJ?
I witnessed she was a doting mom. She was very engaged. She was. I know one time when we went, he was probably a year old. She had a photo album, and she had pictures in it, and she had pictures of me and Larry and other people. And
No, I'll just address it. I'm embarrassed. That shirt is an extra large. It was popping, so I guess we'll wear the Perry shirt, baby. Unfortunate, man. That was wild. Yeah, I needed a t-shirt because that was just ridiculous. Yeah, I'll tell you this. This is I was not really considering the fact that I forgot that my name comes up in this. I was just thinking, you know, I haven't heard it. I'm thinking more about my siblings and my family and knowing what's going on. So, but it is it's different. So also, you know, I'm sure it's odd for Ray to hear all this stuff too. So we're just we're letting the moment come in. We're as usual, we're just doing what we always do. We're talking about it. So you know, appreciate you guys. Thank you. All right, so let's keep going. We don't have to worry about my shirt popping open anymore. And we'll get it going.
She was reinforcing that we were his grandparents. She would point to him and say, "That's Mama," and point to the next picture, "That's Pawpaw." And she was a good mom for everything I could see.
Okay. What did you observe in the relationship between Charles and JJ?
Charles was
Right.
hands-on. He was engaged. He took a lot of. When Charles was traveling for business, Lori had him all to herself. But when Charles got home from his businesses, he had JJ all the time.
Okay. I'm going to talk to you about the year 2019.
Oh gosh.
Do you recall the first time you saw JJ in 2019?
It was right around the 1st of February
Okay. Where was that?
in Chandler, or in the Phoenix area, one of the
You couldn't handle
Maricopa
that.
County.
Okay. So
You couldn't have handled the shirt switch live. You wouldn't have made it through.
is Chandler in the Phoenix, the general Phoenix area?
It's a suburb, yes.
Okay. Do you recall how long you stayed there?
That time was about probably 2 weeks.
Okay. Was there a specific reason you had come out to visit that time?
Yes, Charles
No
reached out that
way.
he and Lori had
Hold
split up.
on.
That
Slow it down. Is this Larry for real? Is this really Larry? No shot. Hi, Larry. We were not expecting you, but welcome, man. Welcome. Welcome to our healing here today. Really hope it's you. It's him. Yes. Hi, Larry. Good to see you, man. Told you guys we're putting together a healing group here together. Thank you for being here. This is something that, we're all here to do together. We're all here to heal, and sometimes that happens later on. So appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for being here, Larry. Thank you for being here, Ray. Thank you, McSpunky. That's really sweet of you. But yeah, we're walking through it, Larry. If you haven't been here, we are walking through the very beginning of Lori's trial, and we're facing it. I've never heard it, so that's just the update for anybody who's new to the chat. I've never heard this before, so and it's hard. These are all the details. These are all the hard things that we're facing the reality here today. But we're still enjoying our lives, and we're so grateful for what we have here today, and we're still together. So we're doing it real. Okay, let's keep going, guys.
She was gone, and he was totally very distraught. So I went to, excuse me, I went to help him with JJ.
I
And
don't object here. This is hearsay evidence that's coming in.
Your Honor, I haven't heard any hearsay yet.
Hadn't heard that yet either. Do we have water for the witness?
yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you needed any. I couldn't see if you had any.
I love the
Feel
judge,
free
man.
to
He's so
take that-
sweet.
Have that ready.
Both judges are incredible, man.
All right, objections overruled.
So, Ms. Woodcock, you had stated that you were in the process of saying that you were out there because Lori was gone.
Yes.
Were you aware of where Lori was?
No.
To your knowledge, was Charles aware of where Lori was?
No.
Okay. Did you see Lori at all while you were there?
No.
Okay. You stated you were there for a couple of weeks. Did you take JJ with you after that at all?
Yes, I brought him home to Louisiana with me. Charles needed to go to work, and we were ready to have him in Louisiana.
Okay. Approximately how long did you have him in Louisiana?
Probably a week, maybe two.
I'm glad he is.
We during that time frame, from like February 1st to the end of March, we were back and forth to Louisiana to Phoenix, to Louisiana to Phoenix with JJ. Just busy trying to help Charles get things squared away.
Okay. And I'm sorry.
This is another thing that's really hard, like for that time period, like hearing what Charles was going through on his side. I didn't know what was going on with him. I didn't understand that. And I've told you guys, how much I've regretted not talking to Charles, but that was a mistake I made, and it cost me a lot. And, I learned a hard lesson with that, and I'll always regret it. But, to hear what he was having to go through, I was just so angry at everybody, man. I was so angry at Lori for disappearing. I was angry at Charles for taking JJ to Houston because I never thought I'd see them again. And like, I didn't know what to think or do. And I'm trying to raise Riley, and Kelsey and I are trying to just make it through the day, man. It's just brings up that memory and that hard times. But there's so many other people going through so much, and you just can't put into context to hear everybody else's perspectives here, and to hear what they had to go through and deal with, man. It just it'll never, ever make sense to me. It's just so much hardship that whole entire time for everybody.
Did you mention a time frame in which you were going back and forth between Louisiana?
Yes, between February 1st of 2019, and on through the end of March of 2019.
Okay. Did you stop going to Arizona?
Yes,
Why was that?
because we moved Charles to Houston. Charles and JJ.
Okay. And when Charles and JJ moved to Houston, was Lori with them?
No.
Okay. Why did Charles move to Houston, to your knowledge?
So we could help him. Well, he didn't have any family in Arizona. It was all just her family. JJ needed good schools, which they had in Houston. We didn't really have any in Lake Charles. And Lake Charles is 2.5 hours from Houston. We would be able to, whenever Charles would go out of town, took work. He was gone maybe 3 days.
That's the thing I
when he
never
would
really
go.
thought about from that perspective, because I didn't grow up with my dad's family at all. So my mom's family was my only family. Charles had his entire family, and he lived really far away from them. Like Texas is even a lot closer to Louisiana. Obviously, they're side by side, I think. I need to look at my map, but I think they're side by side. Sorry, it's been a minute. I'm almost positive they're side by side. But then we moved to Arizona, and you have to understand, even for Hawaii, how far that would have been from Louisiana to Hawaii. It's a freaking trip and a half. It's a trip and a half from where we were. I did that trip from Kansas back home from Kansas to Hawaii on a cheap flight. So I went to like Minnesota, then I went to California, then there. So it's a long trip. So when they moved to Hawaii, that was a big distance. But when Charles left with JJ, I didn't know what he was dealing with, and I was just upset that I was not going to see them anymore. And I was just angry at everybody, because I didn't understand what's going on. Hi, Colby. I love your family. An idea for the next stream, perhaps put up some pictures of your siblings so you feel like sharing and we can see their beautiful faces. Of course, I'd love to do that for you guys. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. He's not someone that I know, so there's really not much for you guys for me to tell you. It's just the truth. I grew up without that, without him. So yeah, I was in Wichita, man. Shout out to Wichita. Anyway. Yeah, let's keep going, man. It's a lot to hear everybody's perspectives.
To work, and that way I could be in Houston with JJ while Charles was gone, and he wouldn't be with a stranger, and I could get him back and forth to school and just take care of him while Charles would be working.
Okay. Approximately how far is it between Houston and Lake Charles, Louisiana?
150 miles.
Okay, so that's a drive that you can do.
Yeah, just straight down I-10.
Okay. And did you ever have occasion to go to Houston and stay with JJ while Charles was gone?
Yes.
Okay. How many times did you do that?
There was once. Charles moved there like March 31st of 2019. And he did need to get some work. He needed to go to work. So I went to Houston and stayed with JJ for probably 3 days. I think it was that time. And Charles went and did his work. JJ and we had a good time.
Okay. I'm just going to briefly ask you a few questions about Charles's business. What did he do?
He was a financial planner. He mostly sold annuities.
Okay. At any time, did you become involved in helping Charles with his business?
Yes.
When was that?
In February of 2019.
So in the same time period we've been discussing.
Yes.
Why did you start helping Charles with his business?
He asked me to help him out because he was very distraught with Lori, for one thing, for their separation. And he just needed help. I helped him with his payroll, his accounts payable, receivable. My husband, Larry, and I owned a business. So I was very familiar with the workings of a business or being self-employed. And so I did what I could to help him.
Okay. And so through this help, did you have access to Charles's banking information?
Yes.
Did
That's
you have
good.
access to his emails?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have access to other financial information?
We'll see you in
Yes.
a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did anything happen in April that changed the situation and arrangement you had with Charles?
Yes.
What was that?
Lori uh, went to Houston, moved to Houston with Charles and JJ.
Okay. Can
Um,
you state that again to be clear for the record?
Charles and Lori moved to Houston with Charles and JJ.
Okay. And you said that was sometime in April.
What hurts for me is the plotting. Right. I was so mad at Lori going, what are you thinking? What are you doing? By the way, I got an extra long fork. What are you thinking? What are you doing? Why are you not with JJ? How long is it going to take you to figure this out? I understand that, you know, in that time, I thought Charles cheated on my mom for a long time. And that's a hard reality to think that your dad was, you know, broke up the only family you ever had. That was my perspective at that time. And so then I was like, well, why would you get back with him? Why would you do this? What are you doing? Why are you moving to Houston? And why are you all over the place? And, you know, it was messy, man. It was messy. So it's just hard to hear this because, you know, Charles was working hard, trying to figure out what he's supposed to do. He's going through a heartbreak. Exactly. She's freaking, and exactly. She was cheating on him. She projected that. So it's not easy to realize how hard it was for him to try to figure everything out and try to get JJ out of there and try to deal with that. And you know, as we go through this, we're going to listen to more of the other interviews. We're going to react to other things to do with this because I've never been to that place. So we'll get a really full picture together. We're not only going to watch the trial, we'll watch things that happen around the trial, other people's interviews and things of that nature. So it's going to be a lot to do the next couple weeks, but we got it. We'll do it.
April of 2019.
Yes.
Okay. After that, did you continue to see JJ in the Houston or Lake Charles area at all?
Oh, yes. Often.
Okay. How often?
Every weekend he would come, or every other weekend, just whenever he could get away, he would bring JJ, and they would come for the weekend, which we were more than happy to have them.
Okay. Did Lori stay in Houston? Are you aware if Lori stayed in Houston?
As in, like,
Did she stay?
We actually just had Riley. Their whole thing started, their breakup, if you want to say, started in January, and we had Riley February 5th, and we were married in January 2018. So we just had our 1-year anniversary and then had our baby the next month.
I apologize. Did she continue to live in Houston?
as far as I knew, she was go to Phoenix, and I don't know where else, but I don't know exactly what her travels were at the time. But I know Charles would come sometimes and say, well, Lori's gone this weekend, or, you know, she went to do this weekend. I don't remember the specifics.
Okay. Did she move from Houston?
Yes, in June of 19, Charles secured her a home in Chandler, which is a suburb of Phoenix.
Okay. And when Lori moved back to the Phoenix area, where was?
Let me give you guys some context there. So Lori leaves Charles, makes him move, starts to threaten him, right? Then she goes to Hawaii, doesn't tell anybody where she is. I found out she's in Hawaii from Tylee, because Tylee came back. You have to understand, I ask a lot of questions because my mom was all over the place too. So it wasn't my business, and I was busy. And I was, unfortunately, at that time, I was just busy with my family. I was trying to function as a new dad. It's our first baby. She was having a lot of issues. We've been over that before. You have to understand, she disappeared on her own grandchild too. She didn't see her. She didn't see Riley, my oldest. So she didn't care. She didn't care about JJ. She didn't care about anybody at that point. So, you know, and so she disappears all over the map. Then she moves to Houston and shows up and goes to Houston. And then she tells Charles, I want to go back to Arizona. So he helps her, gets her a house there, and is willing to do all the commuting and pay for everything and do all of that. And that's just like, it just hurts me the most to know how willing he how willing he was to try to make her comfortable. You know, it's hard.
Charles staying at that time?
He wasn't staying there. He still had a home in Houston, but he when he would get a hotel.
Okay. At that time, to your knowledge, are you aware if Charles was intending to divorce Lori?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if he was ever able to finalize that divorce?
No.
Okay. To your knowledge, is Charles Vallow alive or deceased?
He's dead.
Do you know the date he died?
July 11th, 2019.
Okay. To your knowledge, did Charles Vallow have a life insurance policy?
Yes.
Did you ever have an occasion to speak with him about that policy?
Yes.
When was that?
In February of 2019, he approached me and said he wanted to name me the beneficiary. It was $1 million policy, and he wanted to name me beneficiary and take Lori off.
Okay. Did you ask him to name you as the beneficiary?
No.
Okay. During that conversation, did you commit to doing anything with that life insurance policy money?
I just want to say that one thing too. You know, Kay did not ask Charles to do that. You know, it's not like Kay went in there and begged Charles to do that. Charles was changing it over to his sister because he no longer had a wife that he was going to give it to. So I think that's wild. You know? So
If you were the beneficiary,
Yes.
what did you commit to do with that money?
To finish raising JJ because Lori didn't want him anymore.
And did you commit to doing anything else with that money?
Yes. He had asked me to give half of it to his 2 adult sons, which I did.
Okay. Did you ever have another conversation with Charles about that life insurance policy?
I can't remember at this moment. It might come to me in a minute. I'm sorry.
That's okay. But is it fair to say you don't remember having another conversation with him?
I don't remember right at this moment.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I do know
It would
that.
be hearsay if she did have a conversation with him.
The existence of a conversation isn't hearsay.
I like
Sorry,
Rob.
Mr.
Dude.
Wood, why don't you ask another question? There's a pending objection, but I don't know that this would be responsive to that. So if you'd re-ask.
Okay.
We've got another question that'll
Okay.
be posed before you can answer. Sorry.
After Charles's death, did you receive the benefit of that life insurance policy?
Yes, it was unexpected because I never knew. I never followed up with Charles to see if he had changed me to his beneficiary. But yes, I did. Probably within a week of his death.
Okay. And how did you find out about that?
The insurance company called me.
Okay. Did Lori Vallow ever contact you about the life insurance policy?
Yes.
Do you know what number she texted you from? Or let me rephrase that. How did she contact you?
Through a text.
And do you recall what number she texted you from?
No.
Did you have her saved as a contact in your phone?
Yes, she actually had 2 numbers in my phone.
Okay. And do you know what those 2 numbers are?
Yes. Can I have a paper with it on there?
Do you remember those numbers off of the top of your head?
No.
In anticipation of today, did you make a record of what those numbers were if you couldn't remember it?
Yes.
Would it refresh your memory to look at those numbers?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask, well, what kind of document did you prepare to see those numbers?
I just did a screen print and I have it on and made a copy.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be allowed to look at those documents to refresh her memory.
Any objection?
There you are.
All right. You can go ahead and just indicate on the record what it is specifically you've looked at. And then after you've looked at that, put it away or turn it off if it's a device. And then we'll.
It's I have it.
Okay. So printed papers, it
Yeah.
appears. If you'll just look at those and then once you've refreshed your recollection, set those aside. And then Mr. Wood will ask another question.
Do you want?
Have you had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall the numbers you had stored in your phone for Lori?
Yes.
What was the first one?
480-489-4652.
And what was the second?
480-692-9562.
Thank you. Mrs. Woodcock, do you recall the last time you saw JJ Vallow in person?
Yes.
Where was that?
Lake Charles.
Do you recall when it was?
The weekend of May 17th. And I remember it vividly because we gave him a birthday party because his birthday was May 25th.
Okay.
Someone be breathing in that
And did
mic
you,
hard.
so you saw him at his birthday party?
Yes, and they spent
Where
the
was
weekend-
that?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Where was
Let me
that?
just tell you guys real quick, not to go off on a tangent, but Kelsey's got me. She's got me doing it right here. I ate some really good today. I told her that part of the Alpha Made channel that I made is going to be about eating healthy and getting into just the best shape you can be. It's not about comparing yourself to other people. It's about being your best version of yourself. So we'll go on there. We'll do recipes. They're all going to be Kelsey's. I'm going to steal all her recipes for you guys and show you what she made because that's how we get downs.
At Mr. Gaddy's, a pizza place in town.
Oh, I love
Okay. And then did he spend that, was it a weekend?
Yes, they spent the weekend with us, and we gave them the party on the Saturday, and then the Sunday afternoon they left to go back to Houston.
And
Lake
that was,
Charles.
just to be clear, that was the last time you saw him in person.
Yes.
Okay. After the last time you saw him in person, did you ever have contact with him again?
I think we may have had a phone call or two when he was with Charles. Yes, but
Okay.
that was about it.
All right. After Charles passed away on July 11th, did you ever have contact with him again?
Yes,
Tell me, well, do you remember how many times you had contact with JJ?
3 times.
Do you recall the first time you did?
Yes,
How did you have contact with him?
it was a FaceTime.
Okay. Do you recall when that was?
It was probably, let's see, June 11th. So probably around June 20th. I'm sorry, July 20th. Probably about a week or so after Charles's death.
Okay. Was there anything about that contact that stood out to you?
Yes.
What was that?
He normally had an iPad or a phone, and he would walk around and talk to Larry and me.
Yep.
And it was always so funny because he wouldn't hold the device to him. He would walk around and we'd see the ceiling in most of the
Right.
places that they lived. But anyway, it was always funny. But yes, he would hold the iPad or the device and he would talk until he was ready to hang up.
Yep.
So that's how you
He would
normally.
just call you and he just like JJ would walk around and just do whatever he's doing. I mean, he literally went outside to pee and because they had a big backyard and he would just go out there and just bring me with him and you wouldn't see anything. You just see the sky. And I'm like, what are you doing, buddy? And he's like, just go and pee. I'm like, okay. And he just talk to you while he's doing it. So it was seriously the cutest thing ever. But he would hit you up like 10 times in a row. He would just call you. And then when he was done talking to you, he was just like ready to move on. He'd just hang up on you without even saying bye. It was really cute.
Communicated with him over
Yes.
FaceTime. On this specific incident that I asked you about, was there anything different about your communication with him?
Yes, he did not have the device in his hand. Somebody was holding it for him. And he normally, like I said, he normally always had it, but it was a very short call. And he would look up and whoever it was obviously taller than him. But he was having a bad, taller than him.
And you said it was a short call. Do you
Yes.
recall approximately how long it lasted?
Probably maybe 30 to 45 seconds.
Okay. Did you have any other contact with him by FaceTime after that?
Yes,
Do you recall the next time you did?
yes.
When approximately was that?
It was in the evening time, and again, he was not holding the device. He was this time he was in a really foul mood, and he just really didn't want to talk. And I remember he just didn't want to talk. He was having a little meltdown. So I remember being very upset that Lloyd waited till that time of the evening, or he was very tired. He was overly tired probably, and he didn't want to talk.
Okay.
So I was very upset about that.
About approximately how long did that conversation last?
It was under a minute, 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute.
Okay. Did you have any other contact with JJ Vallow?
The last FaceTime, the last contact that we ever had with them was on August the 10th of 19. And that was a 35-second FaceTime. And he, again, was not holding the iPad or the device. He just said, "Hi, Mama. Hi, Papa." And then he looked up as if someone, whoever was holding the device, and he goes, "Gotta go, Mama. Gotta go." How do you say it? "Gotta go, Mama. Gotta go, Papa. Bye." And
Okay.
that was it.
So that was the end of the
That was
conversation.
it. Yes.
So it was a short conversation.
Yes.
And that was the last time you ever had contact with JJ Vallow
Yes.
on
Mhm.
August 10th, 2019.
Yes.
Did you attempt to have contact with JJ after that?
Yes.
Okay. How would you attempt to have contact with JJ?
I, myself and Larry would, it was call, email, text, voicemail, any way we could, but I never got any response from her.
Okay. I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. Did you attempt to arrange with Lori for JJ to attend Charles's memorial service?
Yes.
Where was Charles's memorial service held?
In Lake Charles.
Okay. How did you communicate about that with Lori?
I don't remember if it was a phone call or a text. I don't know, but she had agreed that JJ could attend the memorial service.
Okay. And did you have a plan for picking him up and the logistics of that?
Yes, I bought plane tickets for me to go to Phoenix and pick him up, get him from her, and to fly back to Lake Charles and attend his memorial service, his dad's memorial service. And we were going to have him for a week. And then I was going to fly back to Phoenix with him and give him to Lori and then fly home.
Okay. Did JJ end up attending his father's memorial service?
No, he wasn't allowed to.
Okay. And did you speak with Lori about that or communicate with Lori about that?
She wouldn't answer anytime I tried to reach out, she wouldn't answer me.
Okay. Was Lori at Charles's memorial service?
No.
Okay.
So really what happened is he was in the NICU. Then they kept him for a while. And then I think what happened is Charles might have given a call to Kay, knew what the situation was. And then we went and visited JJ as a family to meet him. They had already been out to Louisiana and then came back, and then we went back out there, and then they made the full-on decision. So then Lori went back to Louisiana to pick up JJ and brought him home, and that was it. So, and then we lived in Arizona for a while. Then they moved to Hawaii, and then back to Arizona, and then to Houston briefly, then back to Arizona, then to Idaho, and that was all of it. That's it.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask the bailiff to
Yeah,
hand.
you guys understand, like, there wasn't and everybody I've talked to, and I won't speak for them, and I'll just speak for myself, but we didn't think that the kids were in danger. Just wasn't crossing our mind. It wasn't a thought. And I was still getting texts from Tyler, even though I was suspicious of him. And then Kelsey and I were the ones that were doing that. Kelsey had her own relationship with Tyler. I won't speak on that either, but there was just, we still never, ever, ever, ever could have imagined what it was. And Brandon and I just talked about this and touched on it. A lot of times what happens is everybody gets a piece of the puzzle and everybody sees this full picture. And, a documentary comes in and tells you everything that happened, or all this stuff happens. You get this full picture, and then you go back and you go, how'd you not notice that? How come you didn't do anything in that time? And you're like, that's not how it was at that time. There was no full picture. We didn't have all those pieces. So it's just what it is. No one thought that way. No one really believed that there was just like some danger and some horrible thing happening. I don't think any of us believed that that was possible, because Lori had never done anything other than protect the kids in that way. So we had no one thought that. That just wasn't crossing your mind. You can't, exactly. But the problem is a lot of times we look at stories, and this is another reason why we need to give survivors a voice. Is a lot of times people, I'm going to answer this in a second. Mine too. But what happens is a lot of survivor stories get put out there in a very full way, and people can watch it. And then they're always questioning, like, how did you not know? Well, it's because you're being given the whole thing. You're not walking in it in the moment, and you don't you don't have those pieces back then. You're not talking to a bunch of people and theorizing and wondering, and you're just it's just a lot of confusion, you know.
Show to the defense and hand the witness a self-authenticating document.
All right, is there a courtesy copy for the court?
I don't have a courtesy
Nobody.
copy for the court.
All right, well, go ahead.
It's in an evidence bag.
Okay. Is it on the exhibit list?
Yes.
I'd like to review that as well.
Maybe we can fast forward a little bit.
Your Honor, this may be a good time for me to lodge an objection outside the presence of the jury. I don't know if the court wants to do about some.
Yeah.
It has provided some.
And that's just going to witness.
It never made a statement to us other than what's included in those reports. And so
Versus Lori Noreen Vallow.
Okay.
We just completed the lunch break.
Okay, we passed lunch.
There's been a witness that's been placed under oath. We'll have continued testimony there before we bring the jurors in and recall the witness. I will state, for a security concern for those in attendance, when we do have breaks, I'm advised that we're not going to permit you to leave personal effects, bags, etc., sitting on the benches when you exit the courtroom at any time, because for those in attendance, or me. Yeah, Ms. Woodcock, if you come forward, we'll continue with your testimony.
Yeah, we're just trying to scrub through because we don't want to listen to the breaks. We don't have to. This was pre-recorded. We know that. So. Yeah, just I hope you guys understand. Like, I appreciate you at least looking at it from a different perspective. Like, none of us sat there and thought, "Yep, Kylie and JJ are in danger." Like, if that were the case, they would have never. I would have never let them leave. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't think that. It's just not it never crossed your brain. I want you to sit there and think for just 2 seconds. Are you just going to imagine that someone you know and love is just going to start killing your entire family? Like, it doesn't cross your brain. It's just it's unfathomable. You don't think that way. Exactly. Me and Brandon just discussed this. If you guys haven't seen our interview, we just went over it together because it's you have to look at it from a different context. And Brandon thought the same thing. I'm not speaking for him. He said this, like, you don't think twice about the danger because it just doesn't cross your brain like that. Your brain doesn't work like that. Yeah, it's also your brain is meant to protect you, by the way.
All right, thank you. Please be seated.
Exactly. It really is. Yep.
All right, we're returning to testimony here after the lunch break. I'll note that the witness who's testifying, Ms. Woodcock, you've previously been placed under oath and you are still under oath for continued questioning. There was an exhibit that was held by the clerk at this time. It's been offered but not yet admitted, and I believe that was marked as State's Exhibit 1. Mr. Wood, if you'd like to continue your direct examination of this witness, you may.
Could we quickly approach and have a real quick sidebar, Your Honor?
Yes.
She's some great recipes, man. We're gonna go through them on the new channel. I'll post a link. Let me see if I can find it on here, and I'll post a link for you guys.
Thank you. All
the
right,
chat
Mr.
right
Wood,
now.
you can inquire.
Thank you. Your Honor, I previously had handed up to the court State's Exhibit 1, which is a self-authenticating document.
Yes, the clerk has the Exhibit 1. No, thank you.
I'm gonna drop it in the chat for you guys right here, right now, so you have it.
Mrs. Woodcock, do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is it?
A Louisiana birth certificate for Kanan Todd Trahan,
Okay, and what is the birth date on that document?
May 25th, 2012,
It's the new channel right here.
And where was
I don't know
where
if
is
you
the
can actually
birthplace?
click on that link.
Lake Charles,
honestly.
Louisiana.
And who were the listed parents?
Dennis Todd Trahan and Mandy Nicole Leger.
Okay, Your Honor, I'd ask that be published for the jury.
Yeah, it's weird to just
Objection.
listen to it.
No objection, Judge.
All right, the exhibit may be published to the jury. But, yeah.
This is the fitness channel that's up on the screen for you guys. I don't know if that works for you. Just copy that link if you need to, but I'll post it for you guys later so you have it. I'm excited to share my journey with you guys. I've
All right, and before it's
wait.
being published, just to clarify, it's been offered. I don't think it's yet been admitted. We probably ought to cross that bridge before it's published.
We have no
Thank you.
objection.
What's up,
to the
Taz?
admission,
Yeah,
Judge.
this
Thank you,
this
Your
was
Honor.
All right,
purely
and Let
audio.
me make sure the record picked that up. There was a
There you go,
note from defense counsel. There's no objection to the admission. So that's admitted as what I believe is marked as State's Exhibit 1. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
This
Okay.
was
Exhibit 1's
purely
been
audio
admitted.
for some reason. Guess Lori did not want to be filmed this time, but then decided to be a movie star for 2 of them as her own way. Whatever. Maybe she just said F everything. I'm just gonna go for it. All right, we're gonna fast forward. We don't have time for this. A lot of breaks here.
Leland Charles Anthony Vallow.
In document, I'd ask that it be admitted into evidence.
Okay, there we
Any
go.
objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 3 has been admitted.
May I publish it to the jury?
You may.
Mrs. Woodcock. You stated that was a birth certificate.
Yes.
Your Honor, with the
Appreciate
lighting
you
on
guys.
that Elmo, if it's all right, I'll just have the bailiff hand this back to the witness. It's impossible to read with the glare.
Okay.
Can you say it again, what that document is?
Louisiana birth certificate.
Who is it for?
Joshua Jackson Vallow.
And who are the listed parents?
Leland Charles Anthony Vallow and Lori Noreen Cox.
Cox.
Thank you.
Frick. Her on his birth certificate said her name.
Your
is
Honor, I'd ask
Cox.
that what's been marked as State's Exhibit 4 be handed to the witness. Courtesy copy for the court and defense.
Very well.
Mrs. Woodcock, do you recognize that document?
I do.
Oh, it's coming.
What does it purport to be?
Our beautiful grandson, JJ.
Is that did you take that picture?
I did.
Is that a true and accurate representation of JJ Vallow?
Yes.
I just want you guys to know, and again, this is something I kept thinking to myself. I don't know why it's so hard. There's just a moment when you're sitting up on the stand and they show you a picture of both of them or one of them. And I remember they just tried to identify Tylee and JJ as my brother and my sister. And I just started bawling. And it's like, I couldn't even control it. There's just nothing I could do about it. And I don't know, it hurt so much. And that's why she's crying. I don't know how to explain it to you guys. It's one of those things where it's like the pain of just being in that room, knowing they're gone, being in front of one of the murderers. It is just something I cannot put into words for you guys. And all they're doing is showing you a picture of them. But it is really, really, really overwhelming. And I know exactly how she feels to the T.
Your Honor, I ask the State's Exhibit 4 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
May I want to hear a native an objection?
You may.
Ms. Woodcock, you indicated that you were the one who took this photograph.
Yes.
Do you know when you took it?
Doesn't matter.
Probably. He was probably 5 or 6 then, maybe 7. He was probably. Hang on, let me look. I can't remember exactly
Why
when.
does that
we
matter?
took a lot of pictures of him.
Yep.
Where was it taken?
And my husband's pickup truck,
And I mean, I guess like what city?
Why are you
Lake
asking?
Charles, Louisiana.
And who else was there when this photo was taken?
Well, it looks like the angle I took it from was the front passenger seat, so Larry was probably with us.
Okay.
Yeah,
You don't have any specific recollection of the day you took this?
It is on speed.
No, but this has always been one of my favorite pictures
Okay.
of him.
Your Honor, I have no objection to the admission of State's
Right here.
Exhibit 4.
All right, Exhibit 4 is admitted.
We're on faster speed, so it's in faster than actually what it's going. This is
Your
a
Honor,
little
may I
too
publish for the
fast.
jury?
You may.
In my opinion, that's too fast.
Mrs. Woodcock, who was that again? Who was that a picture of?
JJ,
Okay. Is this the JJ that we've been speaking about this morning?
yes, it is.
Okay.
Mr. Wood, just to clarify our exhibits here, I'm holding a courtesy copy, but it's got a what looks like the state's exhibit sticker original. I want to make sure I don't have the original exhibit, not a copy.
I think you do have the original, Your Honor.
Okay, let's go ahead and sort those out. So I'll hand you my copy and I'll ask the bailiff to bring me the other back. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Woodcock, you, before we broke for lunch, you had testified about Charles Vallow dying and trying to make contact with JJ, correct?
Yes,
At any time, after the death of Charles Vallow, did you become concerned about the whereabouts of JJ?
yes,
Why?
Thank you.
because Lori didn't want him anymore.
Were there any other reasons you were concerned about his whereabouts?
I didn't know. I was having trouble reaching Lori and her keeping in touch, letting us keep in touch with him.
Okay. Did you ever reach out to law enforcement about your concerns about JJ?
Yes.
When did you do that?
My brother died on July 11th, and we found out about it July the 12th. And we were in Lake Charles, and he was deceased in Arizona in a Chandler. And
Yes, thank you for being here.
we found out Friday afternoon. That was on the 12th. And then we talked to a detective then. And Larry and I flew out the next day to Phoenix so we could meet with the detective. And he met with us the next day, that Sunday afternoon. And our first question to the detective was, we are so worried about JJ. And also, did he see what happened to his dad?
So you spoke with law enforcement very soon after your brother's death.
Yes,
After you first spoke with law enforcement, you did have occasion to FaceTime with JJ, as you testified earlier, correct?
yes,
After your last FaceTime with JJ on August 10th, did you ever speak with law enforcement again about JJ's well-being or his whereabouts?
yes, numerous times.
Okay.
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to renew my objection pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16b6. She's indicating that she met with law enforcement on numerous occasions. I've received some, but I don't think I've received all of those
Who is
communications.
that? The other guy?
Your Honor, the defense has received multiple reports, and I think that those would indicate all of the witnesses' statements about her concerns about JJ.
All right, I've considered the record that I've got on the issue and looking at the rule cited 16b6. I'll overrule the objection.
Mrs. Woodcock, did you take any steps yourself to try and locate JJ?
Yes.
What did you do?
We hired a private investigator in October
Wow, there's a lot of private
because we
investigators.
had not heard from JJ since August 10th. We heard that Lori had left the state with JJ, and we had no idea where she was
Okay.
or he was.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't tell us where
I
they
want
were
to
going.
speak with you about November in 2019. Was JJ Vallow ever physically with you in November of 2019?
No,
You had testified earlier that you were helping your brother Charles with his business, correct?
yes,
And you had access to multiple of his financial records
yes,
and other accounts?
yes.
Okay. Did anything happen in November that alerted you to Lori Vallow's whereabouts?
Yes,
Okay. Do you recall what date that happened?
November 8th
Where were you?
at home, Lake Charles.
In Lake Charles. Okay. How did you become aware of Lori Vallow's whereabouts?
I had a printer that was Charles's. When we cleaned out his house in Houston, one of his sons and my family went to pack it up to vacate the house. And no, nobody wanted the printer. So I said, okay, I'll take it home. And it sat on my table for a couple of months. And on November the 7th, I decided it was time to hook it up to my computer. And I was having trouble with the scanner. So I was quite aggravated with it. So I went to bed and left it alone to look at it with a fresh eye in the morning. And I woke up at 4:30 in the morning and I just had to go. Something was telling me to go work on that scanner. And when I got to my computer, I noticed that if you have Gmail, when you log on, there's a whatever icon you want it to be in the top right of your screen. And I saw Charles's icon, for his Gmail on my computer screen. So I don't know how it was there, but it was there. And so I clicked on it and it brought me to his Gmail to sign in. And
Were you able to sign into that Gmail account?
yes,
Wow, dude.
Did you have access to Charles's passwords?
yes. He had 3 favorite passwords, and the first one I used worked.
And had he provided you those passwords?
Yes.
Okay. When you opened up that Gmail account,
dude.
what did you see?
There was a bunch of emails, but one that stuck out specifically was an Amazon, like a delivery, like an ordered status email.
Okay.
Yes.
Where was that delivery to?
It was to 575 Pioneer Road, apartment 175 in Rexburg, Idaho.
Do you recall the date of that delivery?
It was probably a couple of days before November 8th. I don't remember specifically.
Okay. But it was after July 11th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that delivery, was that associated with a specific company?
It was with Amazon.
Okay. What did you do after you saw that notification?
I called Brandon Boudreaux was first, and then law enforcement. And I do believe I talked to our private investigator as well. I talked to numerous people that day regarding it because I was shocked at what I found.
Okay. Did you look further into that Amazon account?
Yes, I got into the browsing history in the Amazon account, and I saw that there was browsing for a beach wedding dress, a bathing suit,
Oh my.
men's large size, I think it was large, white linen top and pants, and malachite wedding rings.
So
And
they're
there were-
ordering they're using Charles's Prime to order their beach wedding. They've murdered everybody, and they're going to use Charles's Amazon Prime to deliver themselves their wedding stuff to go get married after murdering everybody in a very short amount of time. If you need to understand why I do not ever need to try to be around Lori or talk to her again, there you go. Right there. All the evidence you need. That alone is like there wasn't even the thought of disrespect. This was like beyond the realm of disrespect. I don't know if there's an English word for what that is, right? Just that alone by itself.
a couple other little odd man things, I believe, maybe flip flops or something.
Was there a date associated with that browsing history that you saw?
Yes,
What date was that?
October 2nd,
Of what year?
2019.
Was there a reason that caught your attention?
October 2nd.
Yes, because I had learned before that Tammy Daybell had passed away on October the 19th. And
October 2nd with Brandon.
this was her looking at wedding rings and wedding stuff on
I'm
October.
going to stop you there.
Sorry.
When you said she was looking at wedding rings, who did you believe was looking at wedding rings?
Lori.
Okay.
I thought this-
And was there anything else about that browsing history that caused you concern or caught your attention?
yeah, Tammy was still alive. Literally. Guys, the timing of this is
Not thinking of anything else.
Okay.
No.
Did you become aware at any time that the Rexburg police were looking for JJ?
Yes.
Did you ever meet with the Rexburg police?
I met with them in January of 2020.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you ever go to Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes.
Prior to the situation, had you ever heard of Rexburg, Idaho?
Never.
Did you put out a reward in aid of the search for JJ?
Yes, at the advice of a FBI.
Okay.
Wow.
Did you ever do
I'm going to
interview?
object to relevance on that last question. I'm going to ask it to be stricken for the record.
Well, the answer came before an objection was lodged, so it's not timely, so it's overruled.
It's not timely.
Did you ever do interviews with news outlets to publicize the search for JJ?
Objection relevancy.
What's the relevance, Mr. Wood?
Just to lay the foundation of what Mrs. Woodcock was doing, looking for a missing child, Your Honor.
The objection's overruled. You can answer.
When we went in January of 2020, the media had learned of the story of the kids missing, and we reached out. And every media outlet was all over this,
Yeah,
and
wow.
we talked to every outlet we could. We appeared on talk shows. We did everything we could to raise awareness for the kids missing.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a good judge, man. I really like him a lot.
Around this time, did you ever become aware if Lori Vallow had remarried?
I did. Yes.
Do you know who she had married?
Yes.
Who was that?
Chad Daybell.
So you testified you went to Rexburg in January of 2020.
Yes.
Did you ever see JJ there?
No.
Were you ever informed that JJ and Tylee were found?
Yes.
When was that?
June 9th, 2020.
Do you know where they were located?
Yes.
Where were they located?
In Chad Daybell's backyard, buried in shallow graves.
Okay. Your Honor, the state has no further questions at this time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Let's make sure we've got all the exhibits that were admitted to the court clerk. And then, Mr. Thomas, you can conduct your cross-examination.
How you doing today?
Good.
How you doing today? Yeah, that's what she wants to do, is have a conversation with you, brother. You hear her last answer?
So when JJ was born, this was your son, right? That he was born to?
Yes.
Okay. And your son couldn't take care of JJ due to personal issues, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then he came into your custody,
Yes.
and you were kind of like I guess not kind of like, you were a foster parent, right?
Caregiver.
Caregiver,
Yes.
sort of like a foster parent, or I don't know how it works in Louisiana.
Temporary placement.
Okay. And generally, what my understanding is, and what we do here in Idaho, is we try to reunite with the parents. Is that what was going on with JJ?
Yes.
Okay. And you kept him, I believe you said, from July until about February. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And sometime between July and February, there was a conversation between you and your brother Charles, right?
So let's just stop real quick. This is the defense. This is Lori's defense. There's two different guys, apparently, because I don't know this guy's voice, but I've heard him object. So she had two different lawyers. I don't know how that works. Obviously, their job is to make the witness look stupid, discredit the prosecution. And right now, it sounds like what he's going to lead her into is that, oh, you couldn't take care of JJ, and so you asked Lori to do it, right? That's what I'm already hearing here.
Yes.
About the adoption, or the possible adoption of JJ.
Yes.
And Charles is your older brother?
Yes.
He's about 5 years older than you?
Yes.
And tell me again why it is that you didn't want to adopt JJ.
Why does that matter?
We really wanted to adopt JJ, and we could have provided him a good home. But when speaking with Charles and Lori, they just had their atmosphere was a lot more conducive to a baby. He had issues. Canaan. I call him
I
Canaan.
just need to stop real quick. I need to do something. I need you guys to stop. Not you guys. There's a lot of people that do this, though, that blame Kay for giving us JJ. Here's the thing. Kay did what she felt was right. Larry did what he felt was right. They had nothing but good intentions for JJ. And there's nothing more heartbreaking to me than to watch people try to say that if Kay never gave Lori JJ, this wouldn't have happened. Look, this isn't Kay's fault. This isn't Larry's fault. They did the best in their situation, and it just freaking, it's just unfair. So don't do that. Like, this was the only people who should be faulted are Lori, Chad, Alex, and everyone else in that group who planned and plotted murder. Because guess what? No one could have prepared for this. No one could have ever expected this to happen. And they did the right thing, because at that time, that we're exactly right. They still had a business, and they saw that there was a family that could love JJ, and they were right. And we love JJ. So this isn't their fault. I just wanted to put that out there. I hate that, because there's a group of people who are at fault, and that needs to remain the thing. You know, people love to jump online and say wild stuff, and people have their opinions, whatever, but it just, you have to understand that this was not something that anybody knew was going to happen, and none of us could have. I mean, yeah, we could have prevented if we knew, but we didn't know. So nobody could do anything. This is just the reality, and there's no point in trying to go back and say, well, if I would have done this, that's a miserable life. That's just not going to help you grieve. It's not going to help you feel better. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I just really don't like that idea of just people going at them. So.
And when we had him and JJ after, so if I use either,
Sure.
that's the difference. So with Kanan, in Lake Charles, there were no special schools for children with disabilities, and that we knew that was going to be a concern at some point. Lori and Charles just seemed to have the right they had the right, let me back up. Although Charles was 5 years older than me, Charles could run circles around a 25-year-old. Okay. And because Lori was, I believe, 17 years younger than him. So the age in that aspect didn't matter. And my husband, Larry, at that time was 65. And we knew how much, raising children, because he has 4 and I had 2. And we knew that it was going to be a lot. And his brother, Larry's brother, was raising an autistic grandchild. And the atmosphere that we had to offer in ways of, stimulating a kid, bringing them to the park, or going out with their friends, or him having friends over, just things like that. Lori and Charles seemed to have a better place. They were a better placement for him.
Right. Okay. And what you wanted was the best thing for Kanan or JJ, right?
That's what we thought. Yes.
Okay.
See,
and you mentioned that Larry had a brother who was raising an autistic child. JJ or Kanan or JJ, they were also autistic, correct?
I don't think he was diagnosed at that time, but he did have disabilities.
Okay. But you learned later that JJ was diagnosed with autism?
Yes.
Okay. You talked a little bit on the with the prosecuting attorney about you working with Charles when he had a split with Lori, right?
Yes.
And that happened. His split. He filed for divorce in February of 2019. You remember that?
Yes.
And that's when you flew out to Chandler.
Yeah, it was before he filed, I believe, but it was right at that time.
Okay, all right. But he ended up pulling that back or quashing that suit, right?
Yes.
So they were going to get back together.
Charles was hoping, but Lori was nowhere around.
Okay, and that was in February.
Yes, he
Okay.
just couldn't go through with it at that time.
And at that time, Charles had taken JJ with him to Houston, right?
At the end of March, yes.
End of March.
Okay. Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, but Lori did pop back up like March 28th. We were in the middle of packing him to move, and she came walking in the house like she hadn't been gone, and she was yelling at Charles to, why did you take JJ, and what are you doing, and why are you moving, and just, it was ridiculous. It was, anyway, yes.
And you recorded that conversation?
I did.
Yeah. And that was a private conversation between Lori and her husband at the time?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I was in the next room. Her friend Melanie Gibb was in the next room, and we could all hear it.
You were in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Right? And they were in another room?
They were right there in the dining room.
Okay. And so Charles ended up moving to Houston, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that Lake Charles wasn't a good place for the schools that JJ would need to be in, and so that it was decided that he was going to live in Houston because that was a better place for him.
Correct.
And you said that since Charles had to work a lot, you were going to go to Houston to watch JJ while Charles was off on business trips and whatnot.
Yes, or we would get him and bring him home too, just whatever worked best for us.
Okay. And how far was it from Houston to, or not Houston, Katy, Texas, right? That's where they lived?
Yeah, 150 miles.
150 miles.
Yeah.
If Google says that it took about 6 hours, would that to drive it, would that make any sense to you?
No.
No? How long did it take to drive it?
An hour, 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's to go from Lake Charles all the way through Houston
Oh, I'll let
and to the other side where Katy was?
Katy, when 150 miles, Houston is about 80 miles.
I
away.
have not shared my opinion on a lot of things. As this trial goes on, we are going to talk about some of the interviews people gave. We are going to go through a lot of this together, man. We're going to really dive. So we're going to be together a lot this next couple weeks, but I love you guys. I'm not mad about it. I love being able to hang out and spend time with you guys, and you guys have been a great family and support to me. So I appreciate you, but I will let you know my encounters with certain people. Again, I still try to be respectful. I don't like to take we want to take the high road here. There's a lot of opinions I've had when I was angry. I try to keep my mouth in check and try to, remember not to always just speak from a place of emotion. Sometimes it just slips out. That just happens, but I'll let you know, and we'll talk about some of those things specifically.
Huge.
Mhm.
And so 150 miles was like to a major airport or in the general vicinity. Yes, Katy may have been another 10 or 20 miles, but regardless, 2.5 hours, depending on what time of day you went.
So when you drove it, it took you about 2.5 hours to drive it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. And you indicated that that the state asked you, or Mr. Wood asked you about why you became concerned about the whereabouts of JJ, and you said because Lori didn't want him anymore. Is that right? Did you remember saying that?
Yes.
Okay. And what led you to believe that Lori did not want JJ anymore?
Because when a mother leaves their child, she left her husband and she left her child for 58 days. And I know it was 58 days because Charles counted every day and would tell me every day. She never reached out to JJ. She didn't reach out to Charles. And
Were you with him the entire 58 days?
I was with him a lot of the 58 days. Out of 58 days, I probably was with him well over a month.
So more than 30 days?
Yes.
And during those 30 days, you didn't hear from Lori?
No.
Okay. But you're not aware of times that she may have called and talked to Charles or JJ between that time that you weren't there? You don't have any specific knowledge, right?
Not that he told me, no.
Okay.
May I say something?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I just
Mr.
thought of
Wood will be
something.
able to
Okay.
redirect you. Something interesting. On November the 8th, you indicate that you had packed up Charles's house previously and nobody wanted the printer. And so you took the printer back to your house. You recall that?
Yes.
And then you said that you were having trouble with the scanner portion of it. So you just went to bed.
Yes.
And then you woke up at 4:30 in the morning. And what was that like? Tell me a little bit about that. Was that what kind of experience was that?
It was.
She told you.
It was weird because I never woke up at 4:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to wake up at 4:30 in the morning with that scanner on my mind and having to get that was really weird because I never worried about anything that much.
It's definitely God, dude. I mean, look, you when you get thoughts like that, again, this is something, and it's really simple. It's just something that's so like left field, man. Like, oh, go do this real quick. Like sometimes, dude, you got to trust that because God's trying to help you out there. And it's just simple.
But it was bothering me, I guess. So I think it was divine intervention because of what I found when I logged on, when I got everything hooked up. And
sure. What do you mean by divine intervention? What do you mean?
Just God's hand.
There you go. She said it. Well, that garlic is lame.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas.
He's trying to make her look stupid, but he didn't. Couldn't.
Mr. Wood, do you have any redirect of the witness?
The state has no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. That'll conclude your testimony. You may go ahead and return down to your seat there in the gallery. We'll give you a moment to do that, and then I'll ask the state if they've got another witness.
That garlic's freaking flame. Oh, that's strong. I just ate a whole, just a pure garlic. Yikers. Yikes. That was a lot.
All right, Mr. Wood, the state can call its next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Brandon Boudreau.
Oh my gosh, dude. Day one. Day one. Why do I feel nervous? This happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, almost. Like, this was a long time ago, and I'm like,
And who will be conducting direct examination?
feel it in my
I will, Your
stomach.
Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, thank you, Mr. Boudreau. If you'll come around this way and be seated in the seat to my left.
Oh, I just feel the gravity still. It's not even like happening right now. I feel the gravity of it all. I'm just
All right, just a few quick instructions. We're making a record of the case, so please make verbal responses to any questions. Say yes or no instead of shaking your head. For example, please try to avoid talking at the same time anyone is questioning you. And with that in mind, Ms. Smith, you can inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Can you introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the grand jury, please?
Yeah, my name's Brandon Boudreau. I'm from Mesa, Arizona.
Okay. Sir, could you spell your last name, please?
Boudreaux.
Okay. Mr. Boudreau, are you married?
I am.
How many times have you been married?
Twice.
Okay. Let's.
Sure. Sorry.
Okay. And I think it'll help if you just lean just a little forward. It may be a little
I
uncomfortable.
love Brandon because Brandon's so sweet and like he's such a good person, dude.
But lots of people need to hear.
Okay.
All right. And you said you'd been married twice. Let's talk about your first marriage. Who were you married to?
Melanie Cope at the time. She became Boudreau.
Okay. And with your marriage to Melanie Boudreau, did you have any children?
I did.
How many?
4.
Okay. And what are their ages?
I have Braxton, who is 13, Brighton, who's 9, Blake, who's 7, and Breeze, who just turned 6.
Okay. How long were you married to Melanie?
A little over 10 years.
1.25.
What year did you marry?
2008.
Okay. And during that time, did you meet her family?
I did, yes.
Okay. Can you tell us who you remember or who you had relations with?
I mean, she has a big family. So her mom passed away when she was young. So I met her birth mom's family, her dad's family, and then her stepmom's family.
When you say her birth mom's family, what are their names?
The Coxes.
Okay. If you could just scooch just a little closer. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry.
I know, it's all right. And so the Coxes, what are their names, please?
Barry and Janice Cox are her, that'd be her grandparents. And then Adam Cox, Summer Shiflett, Lori Ballo, and Alex Cox.
Okay. And those 4 people are who to Melanie and therefore were to you?
They would be her aunts and uncles.
Okay. Therefore your aunts and uncles in-laws?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you spend much time with Lori's aunts and uncles? I mean, Melanie's aunts and uncles?
Yes. We, before we got married, I met them in Arizona. And we would spend, most holidays together. We would, when I first, right after I was married, I moved down to Arizona. I actually lived with Lori for a while. And her husband, Charles.
Okay. So when you say Lori, do you see the person you recognize and knew through marriage as Lori Vallow here in the courtroom today?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Can you please point her out and describe an item of her clothing?
She's sitting over on my right with glasses on.
Okay. Your Honor, may the...
This freaking picture. It's not funny, man. Just that picture is such a wild picture of her. Shizlet killed me, man. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. She wrote that down, I think. I think the judge wasn't messing her name up. She wrote Shizlet for her own sister. So I don't know what's going on in her brain.
What table? Just so that the records are all clear.
The second table.
Okay. How many people are at it?
There's 3.
Okay. Your Honor, may the record reflect these. Identify the defendant, please.
Yes, that's reflected on the record.
Thank you. Now, you said you'd spent time in Ms. Vallow's home with Charles, correct?
Yes.
All right. And at that time, was he her husband?
Yes.
All right. How well did you get to know them?
Very well. We just spent a lot of time together.
Okay. When you say we, what does that mean?
Me and my family,
Okay.
my wife at the time, and my children.
Okay. And did you get to know her children, Ms. Vallow's children?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. What were their names?
There's Colby, Tylee, and JJ.
And when you say you got to know them, did your kids also interact with their cousins?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did. They spent a lot of time together. My oldest Braxton was pretty close with JJ. I think JJ looked up to him a lot, and they spent a lot of time together.
So would they spend any time in each other's homes?
Yeah. JJ wasn't he wasn't super interactive as he had autism, so he wasn't always like incredibly interactive, but he seemed to love hanging out with my kids, and specifically Braxton and Brighton. As he got older, he started to be able to interact a little more, and he would always he kind of had two fascinations. One was with traveling. He always said everybody always got him suitcases. He had suitcases everywhere. And the other was coming and hanging out with Braxton. He would always ask for that, and they had a great time when they spent time together.
Okay. And what about Tylee?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Tylee as well. I watched her grow up. I met her when she was just little, and then got to watch her kind of grow into a teenager.
Did you have any special sort of religious connection to Tylee?
Yeah. In our church, when you turn 8, you can get baptized if you choose. And so when she turned 8, she decided to get baptized. And for whatever reason, Charles wasn't comfortable doing the baptism. And so they had asked me, and I of course said yes. I would be honored to baptize her.
And you say in your church, what church is that? What's your faith?
I go to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay. And was Tylee baptized into that church?
She was, yes.
Okay. Were you and your wife members of the Church of Latter-day Saints?
Yeah, we were.
Okay. And to your knowledge, what about Mr. and Mrs. Vallow?
Yes, as well.
Okay. Did you, what about the relationship sort of that you observed between Melanie Boudreau and Lori Vallow? What was that like?
Yeah. Melanie, she kind of had like an affinity towards Lori. She always kind of she looked at her kind of less like an aunt figure and almost more like a mom figure. She was always wanting to be like her.
Did you get along with Charles?
Yeah, really well. Charles and I both had a passion for sales and business, and connected well in that. And we just both loved our families, and so it was very easy for us to spend time together.
So it wasn't uncommon that the Boudreaux and the Vallows would get together and get along.
Yeah, we would. There was years where they lived by us, and we would usually see each other maybe once a month or more. And then there was times when they lived further away, but we would travel to each other's homes, stay in each other's homes when we went, and it wasn't uncommon to spend a week, or more at each other's homes.
Okay. Did you spend holidays together?
Yes.
Okay. What was the last Christmas that the Boudreaux and the Vallows spent together?
That would have been in 2018.
Last Christmas.
Was that a typical Christmas for the two couples?
No, it was definitely different at that point.
Why?
When you get really close with people, you kind of become comfortable and you let your guard down, and your body language is more relaxed and more comfortable, and it just everything kind of, I don't know how to, it can be so fluid. You can see each other and pick right up where you left off. But everybody feels like they know everything about each other, almost like it's just you're so, each other so well that it's like memory, if you will. But in that one, it was very Well, there was Melanie Gibb who was there, who I'd never met before, and never heard anything about.
We were forced. Kelsey, I hope you're in the chat. I don't know if she is. I'm gonna text her. I'm gonna tell you guys this freaking story. All right, time to tell you a story. This is a very important thing too. Okay, hold on. Okay, so here's what happened. Oh, she's here. Okay, so 2018, we walk in. It's our entire family. It was the last time we ever had our family together for Christmas ever. You can never, and the reason why it's such a memorable Christmas for that reason is because it was last time forever. And I don't just mean Tylee and JJ, everybody, Charles. I mean everybody. And never those people in the same room, never again, right? So, so we pull up. Kelsey was about to pop. You know, she was supposed to have a baby. Supposed to have Riley on like January. Our due date was January like 27th. So we're like right there, and she's, you know, about to pop. Everybody's there, and this woman comes up, and Kelsey and I are standing there, and this woman, Melanie Gibb, who I'd never met, gets about this close to me and goes, I mean, when I tell you this close, I kid you not, this close, and gets right here and goes, I'm like your second mom. And I went, what the hell are you talking about? I've never met you in my life. And she and my mom are like two little kids. And they're running around the house together. And then they both put on roller skates and start roller skating around our house. Two grown women chasing each other on roller skates, giggling. She invites her family, her husband and her kids. They are so uncomfortable, and she doesn't acknowledge them. She continues to spend her time with Lori, and Lori continues to spend her time with Melanie Gibb. Like best friends who had never, I mean, these two were odd, okay? And I'm just going to say it. I was like, I wonder if they're in some kind of relationship together because of how odd they really are together. Like there's something weird here. Like there's something more. You can ask Kelsey. She like rubbed Kelsey's belly without asking. Like this woman had no, first of all, boundaries, just general boundaries of like human being and touching. Yeah, that's a great point. We'll have to talk about that another time. They roller skated around the house. I'm talking about Sonic roller skates, and rolled around our house together, giggling and chasing each other while we're all there for Christmas. And we're all looking over, me and Tylee and my cousins, and everybody's just like, what the hell is happening? And you know, it was something I'll never be able to ever explain to you. It was weird, and I'll never forget it because I was so uncomfortable. And they were so odd. And, you know, like I said, we all were there. Everyone else was family. Yeah. And that's a whole nother conversation. I think we all did because she was, and here's why. And I'll give you context, right? Because it might sound mean to say that we hated her, but here's the reality. Her and Lori together were the worst combination. Like them together, they acted like absolute idiots. They were so unbelievably weird together. And when they, for whatever reason, so we were pretty clear with boundaries. Like we didn't want Melanie Gibb to come to the movies with us and this and that. Lori would invite her, not tell us. And one time we were all supposed to go to the movies with Tylee and my cousin and Kelsey and Lori. And so Melanie Gibb shows up at our house and jumps in the car. And we're all like, what the frick? And she's like, oh, sorry, didn't know Melanie was coming over. Like they lied about going to Disneyland. Like they were weird. They were some weird motherfrickers, man. You want to hear it? Two frizzy-haired fricks. And again, we try not to be too judgmental on this channel. I'm trying not to create a atmosphere of just completely judging people, but them together, this reality, I'm not the only one that saw this. There was some weird stuff, and we all saw it that Christmas. And that was the first time I think a lot of us even met her. So that's just one story. Indoors in our house, in the hallways of our house. So the house that they moved into, Kelsey and I got married at this house the year before, or that same year, because it's 2018. So that January, we got married there because it's a big house, and it had really, really long hallways. Like I'm talking really long, and it was not in a L, but almost more L-shaped. and they chased each other from the front door from the room. They go all the way straight down. So this hallway comes down and then it turns to the kitchen, and then there's another long hallway to the end of the house. And that's where I used to chase JJ and play with him. And that's we had a lot of fun at that house because there was a lot of room and there's a huge backyard and stuff. We were all just sitting there and they're like giggling, roller skating together, just so you have a mental image of what the hell.
So
let me stop you there and let me ask. So you said it wasn't the same as before. Were there other people there for this holiday?
Melanie Good was there with her family, who I didn't really know her, and the rest of us were all.
Okay, Kelsey, you need to give context because trapped you in the shower. So we were walking around the house that they had just were moving to, because the house, for whatever reason, Lori and Charles, when they rented houses, the houses always got bought out. They were always on sale that they were renting, but they were trying to sell. So people would always sell their house after Lori and Charles moved in, and then they'd have to go move. So what happened was we were walking around, and again, this is the creepiness. This is what I remember all of this. We were walking and we were all looking out, and I feel a human being. I'm going to tell my story first, Kelsey, because I'm going to tell you what happened to you. I feel someone touching on my shoulder. I'm assuming it's Kelsey. We're looking out the window to the backyard from the upstairs, and I'm talking like it's Kelsey, and I turn and it's Melanie Gibb. And I go, what the frick are you doing? Like, why are you on me? I don't like that. Like, I don't like being just touched by out of nowhere. Like, I don't know what you're doing. And then same thing. My mom and Melanie were walking around. Kelsey goes in, I don't know why, but she like walked into the walk-in shower because it was big. And they like walk in and stop at the door. And Kelsey's just in the shower. Okay. She's not taking a shower. I'm just telling you, she's in the shower for the tour and standing there. And they're like velociraptors at the front door in front of her. And they just trapped her in there. And I was like, okay, like let's let her go. Let her come out of the shower. Like Gibb just did that a lot. She was just on, and I'm sorry to say, it was uncomfortable every single time. No, you can't. You cannot make it up. It was such an uncomfortable thing for all of us, but like, I was like, bro, just move out the way. Like, just give us space. She had no personal space boundaries at all. And I don't know what that was for. But yes, it was unbelievably uncomfortable every time they were together. Yeah, you're about to pop.
We didn't feel close. The body language was very, in the way that the conversations flowed and everything just felt very distant.
Now, around this time, were you and your wife active in your church or in your ward?
Yeah.
Okay. Had you been
Thank you, Christy,
active with the Vallows in your faith?
Could you maybe expand on that?
Sure. Had you and the Vallows shared that faith and shared activities at church?
Yeah, we definitely had done things at church together.
Okay. And did your wife's let's take it one at a time. Did your wife's activity in...
Let me just give you some context. They went outside in the backyard because their mother... Look, I'll just put it this way. She didn't acknowledge them when they came over. She invited her own family, her husband and her kids. They looked so uncomfortable. They walked outside. They were at someone else's Christmas and weren't even being acknowledged. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever watched in my life. And I remember I think I asked Lori at some point, who is this? And she's like, that's her family. And I'm like, she doesn't even talk to them. I haven't seen them together. They're outside by themselves. She's inside playing games with Lori. They're inside playing roller skate tag.
Religious events increase.
I don't think they
were.
They didn't get a chance.
Christmas.
Yeah, a little bit before it actually, but
can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So when we first got married, my wife's kind of religious level was kind of low. She didn't enjoy going to church. It wasn't something that she. It was more me pushing going to church. I felt like I got like a little bit of a benefit from it, and she didn't really enjoy it that much. And so for most of our marriage, it was kind of me pushing.
Appreciate you guys. Just giving you context.
Kind of the fall of that year.
We're talking 2018.
Yeah, sorry. In the fall of 2018.
They're LDS, so there's no drinking other than soda. So they could have been off the Sprite. Who knows?
she started getting really passionate about going to church and about different ideas within the church. She started going to these things she was calling firesides.
When you say calling firesides, are firesides within the LDS faith? Are those a common practice?
So in the LDS faith, the way our setup is organized is our congregation is called a ward, and there's usually some leaders inside the ward, and then there's a bigger congregation called a stake. And inside of that, usually ecclesiastical leaders organize the regular Sunday events, but you also occasionally will have like they call them firesides, but like a special event that focuses on something around our belief. In this case,
So were the events that your wife attending called firesides sort of part of the organized part of your church?
no, and that's I guess what started kind of sticking out to me was she would go to these things that she was calling firesides, but they weren't put on by the church. They didn't have any ecclesiastical connection. Like there wasn't anything like that, but they were using that term. And she was coming home with kind of different ideas of what she was going to do to be a faithful member of the church.
Okay. Was the defendant at some of these firesides?
Really good.
Yes.
Okay. Did Charles go to any of these fireside talks?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And were you invited?
No, I had a discussion with Melanie, and she told me that these were her thing, and she didn't want me to go, and it was very clear that I wasn't welcome to come.
To your memory, who was attending some of these, extra church activities?
Besides Melanie and Lori.
Besides Melanie and Larry?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. It sounds like he doesn't have information as to who was there. Any information that he would have gotten would have been hearsay.
I'll sustain that. I think there's inadequate foundation.
Were you aware of who attended some of these events?
Not in the present, but afterwards, yes.
Okay. Did any of the people who later went to those told you they had attended those?
Yeah, I had a conversation with Melanie Gibb later where she told me she went to those.
Okay.
Again, it's hearsay.
And that will be stricken as hearsay.
Okay.
A statement of what another said.
All right. But you weren't allowed to go to these talks?
Correct.
All right. And when you say some of the ideas your wife came back with, did they center around particular topics?
Yeah, the things that were she felt a need to go to the temple every single day, which is a little bit extreme. And like in our faith, we believe in going to the temple, and I think regular attendance can be good. It's something where you go and kind of practice ritualistically like your faith and show God that you are trying to keep promises to him. And so it's a good thing to do, but
is it unusual to go every single day?
Very, and it got even more extreme. Like she would have to go during like our family trips to Disneyland or things like that just were very, very overwhelming. She had to focus on this idea that like the world could end soon, and we had a disagreement about buying $10,000 worth of food storage.
Yeah. So let me just again, so many times I have personally moved my family. I have moved my family house to house to house to house, and cannot tell you how much gallons of water and rice and beans and milk, and powdered milk. I mean, you name the food storage crap that I've had to pick up myself and how expensive it is. I mean, you're talking about 10 gallons of rice. You're talking about some of the biggest things ever that you would need. And there was just this fixation on the end of the world. And that was not new. Lori always had that. There's a lot of things I could tell you about that, but there's so many things that was always the constant, though, is that Lori had this idea that she wasn't going to be alive long or the world would not last very long. And it was a lot of pressure because it's a scary thought, especially when you're a child. Like when you're a young kid, you're thinking the world's going to end all the time. And your mom's telling you that you don't have a lot of time and to F it, basically, like, don't even try. I mean, how many times I went to her and she's like, well, just, do whatever you can. Like she literally told me when I was an adult at this time. I think I don't know if I was with Kelsey or not yet, but she said, go, just get into as much debt as you need to, because you don't have to worry about it because the world's going to end soon. Like go to school if you want to, get the biggest loan you can get and just do it, or blah, blah, blah. Like what kind of advice is that from your parent? So that was the wavelength they were on. So the end of the world, always, you have to remember, we're here. A part of a lot of this is the end of the world. main central piece of this let's call it a spider web is the end of the world, and that is one of the essential themes of this entire thing. That for some reason everything was okay because the world was going to end at some point. That was always a constant theme growing up.
Things that just seemed extreme.
And so in this situation, you've been to Christmas and your wife is participating in these extra religious events. Did that affect the situation between sort of the Boudreaux and the Vallows going into 2019?
Yeah, I guess it got a little bit harder for us.
Why?
Excuse me.
Do you need some water?
Yeah, actually.
Do you mind if Your Honor, if he takes a second?
Not at all. It's there for the witness.
Thanks.
Give him some water. Give him a break.
Can you ask me that question again?
In going into 2019, did the situation between the Boudreaux and the Vallows, was it affected by this religious activity or the sort of atmosphere at Christmas?
Yeah, it just kind of got more bizarre. And into 2019, in January, we got a call and text messages from Lori and Charles that Lori was accusing him of cheating and infidelity.
How did you respond to that
I want to
situation?
hear this.
Well, it was kind of complicated.
Why?
For me, well, because initially when all this started happening, I wasn't really I wasn't even aware of it the night that it happened. And when I became aware of it, it just seemed odd. There was it seemed kind of like it just went from 0 to 100 really quick. Lori had removed all the money from their account. She had.
So let me stop you there and break it up. So did that affect the situation with your family?
Yeah, it did. My wife was very adamant that we were going to take sides.
And did you respect Melanie's wishes on that?
Yeah, I did my best. Yes.
Okay.
You have to understand,
did there
dude,
come
any husband is trying to, your wife's your first priority, and Brandon is a firm believer in that, you can tell. And he's trying to do what he can. He's trying to deal with her switching up, and you side with your wife, man. I mean, even if you have your disagreements, you don't know what to do. You put your wife first. You're trying to put her first. You're trying to put her belief system first. And then, it's just a hard place to be. Then all this contention's happening and you have no idea what's going on and you're trying to just live. It's just a lot. It's just a lot.
Time during this period that you would see Lori in the late winter, early spring of 2019?
I didn't see Lori very much at all, but I did see Charles.
Okay. So how often would you see Charles?
He would bring JJ over to play a couple times. He had JJ. Lori wasn't with JJ at the time. I don't know where she went actually.
So Charles would come over to your house with JJ?
Yeah,
and so what would JJ do at the house?
He would play with Braxton and just kind of get a release. JJ was always very high energy. He had to lock everything up when he came so he couldn't get out of the house or get himself into trouble. So it'd be kind of thorough. It was like having a really big kid that doesn't know how to make certain decisions yet. And so it was a lot of work when he'd come over, but you just loved him, so you did it. But so Braxton kind of always knew that his duty was to play with JJ and entertain him and keep him kind of busy so that he would get into less trouble or get into less things.
Got it. And so did you spend time with Charles when JJ was there?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Let's fast forward to that summer. Did you have occasion to go to a family trip or visit your wife's family in Utah?
Yeah, I did. So I, after meeting with Charles those couple times and kind of seeing him go through some painful process, I according as I promised Melanie, I kept asking him not to come over and doing my best to help him, but at a great distance. And so we actually that summer.
I just want to go ahead and say one thing that's pretty wild to me, and I'm just going to make it clear. And most of what happened, from what I'm almost positive, this group did not drink. This group did not take drugs. This was sober-minded. Okay. These were clear decisions with no drugs or alcohol involved. So take that for what it is. From what I know for a fact, I don't think any of them were
I went to Utah
doing that.
to my wife's sister was going to get married, and we were staying at my in-laws' house.
Okay. Did anything unusual happen at your in-laws' house?
Yeah. So my this was in June, and to explain it, on June 23rd, my grandfather passed away of a heart attack, and I got a little bit. His health wasn't great, but it was still a surprise, and so on the 25th, my mom called me to tell me about the funeral, and I had this conversation with Melanie where I told her when it was, and she told me she wasn't going to go to the funeral. She didn't want anything to do with it, and it created kind of a
disagreement between you two.
Yeah, a disagreement. And in that process, this what I thought we were arguing about with like her not wanting to go to my grandpa's funeral, not wanting my kids to go, kind of escalated into something completely different. It just kind of cascaded into a bunch of stuff that didn't make any sense and had nothing to do with me or to do with this.
All right. And when you say to do with this, did it lead to some accusations against you?
Yeah. After I took a little break after I felt so emotional about my grandpa. I walked for a while. I came back, and I really wanted to break through and have like a honest conversation with her. So I just came and apologized for my feelings and just told her that I would accept her not go to my grandpa's funeral. And I just begged her to
think about that, dude. Like, you're begging your wife to support you. You lost someone you freaking love. You're begging her to do that, and then you come back and apologize. And I'm not blaming Brandon or shifting blame to Brandon at all. I'm saying that's just what a good person he is. He was willing to swallow that and say, I need you and you don't want to be there, and I respect you, and I'm still going to take care of you. And I still get that. Like, that's a heart of gold. Okay. That's a heart of gold. And I just want to acknowledge that, because that would be really, really, really hard to have your wife say, well, I'm not going, and frick that. I'm not doing that with you. I'm not going to be there for you. And then start the accusations. So we know, we just watched it. We just watched what happened in Brandon's trial. And then she goes, well, you're gay. And then she goes, well, you try to log into Lori's thing, right? I mean, I'm assuming this is that same conversation. So we know what this conversation entails more because of what we just saw with Brandon's hearing. So
talk to me about what's going on and why things were so hard. And she said that if I was honest, then we could work through things. And she said God had revealed some things to her. And so I just said, let's talk about it. I'm like, what is it? What's between us? And she started out by accusing me of hacking her Aunt Lori's computer.
Had you hacked her Aunt Lori's computer?
No, I don't know anything about hacking, and that was not something I did. It was really illogical, which stuck out to me and frustrated me because I didn't know why it had anything to do with what we were fighting about.
How did that conversation end?
It escalated some more hours, and then I kept trying to talk through it with her. Eventually, her father got involved, and we talked to him, and she wouldn't talk to him with me, but I talked to him, and she was saying she didn't feel safe with me at the house, and she accused me of being a homosexual, which is another thing that didn't make any sense, but Charles had been telling me previously she was going to say,
okay,
Lori was going to convince her.
Okay, so she made those various accusations. How did it end?
It ended with her going to sleep and me feeling kind of overwhelmed, and finally I texted Charles and Lori that I was frustrated with them, that I felt like this was on them. And
did you ever hear back from the defendant?
Lori never answered or responded. Charles talked to me.
Did you, without getting into what somebody told you, what day was this?
June 25th and in past midnight, so into the 26th.
Okay. Did you have additional, and it's 26th of June, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have additional conversations with Charles in the following few days?
I did. I talked to him again after I kind of worked through some stuff with my dad and my ecclesiastical leader, and I went to a counseling session. I called him. Oh, sorry. With my dad, with my ecclesiastical leader, our bishop is what we call him, and then I went to a counseling session, just feeling a little overwhelmed, and then I called Charles that night and talked to him. That was the last time I talked to him, and just I felt kind of maybe like he was the only person who knew what I was going through, because he'd gone through all these things earlier, and just told him sorry for not being there.
Ugh.
Because you'd kept your distance at your wife's request.
Yeah.
Okay. You said that's the last time you talked to him. You didn't talk to him again before he died?
No.
Okay. After Charles died, did you have contact with the defendant, Lori Vallow?
No.
Okay. After Charles died, did you have contact with JJ and Tylee?
No.
How did it progress for you in your relationship with your wife? Did you eventually reconcile, or did you divorce?
No, we ended up divorcing.
When did you divorce?
Well, we did a mediated divorce, so we started the process after I got back from my grandpa's funeral. She left. She just took our car home, so I took my kids and flew home. And when I got home, she let me know that we had to do a mediated divorce. We had to do a divorce, and so that would have been in July. I started going through the process, and so we met. I found a mediator after consulting some people and hearing that would be the lowest conflict way to divorce. I tried to follow through with that, so we went through that process, and that started. I can't say exactly which day, but probably around 1st of July.
And then did you continue working on the divorce and separation through that summer and fall?
I did, yes.
Okay. And where were you living in the end of September and beginning of October of 2019?
At the end of September, I was selling my house, my home that we had bought together. I had moved Melanie to a rental property. And then as soon as I sold my house, I got a rental property as well for the time being, just to try to create some stability. I rented a property right back in where my old ward was, where I had lived before.
Okay. And so how did that situation work out? Were you able to share custody?
I mean, it was complicated. She was just so standoffish. So it was really hard for me to, like, when I was showing the house, we had agreed that I would go see my kids and that I could put them to bed each night, but she wouldn't actually let me in her home. She said she was scared of me. And so I didn't get a lot of time with my kids up until I sold my house, at which time I got my house ready really fast, my new home, so I could have my kids in there. And
did there something occur at the beginning of October of 2019 that affected that situation?
Yeah.
What?
October 2nd, someone parked in front of my house and shot at me.
Okay. What had you done that morning?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevancy. I don't know what this has to do with the case at hand.
May we approach?
Quick sidebar with counsel on this issue.
Oh wow, they skipped over for it. This
All right,
is
counsel, there's a
video.
ruling under advisement. The court's going to review some previous research and rulings I've made in the case to determine this. So this will be the time we'll use for our mid-afternoon break. We are going to go till 3:30 today, so we'll try to keep this break to around 15 to 20 minutes to allow the jury to break as well, and then we'll come back on
Their plan for the death.
an objection raised by the defense. I'd like to hear the response from the state, and then I'll allow a rebuttal argument from the defense before making a ruling.
I'll turn on my microphone. And the court wants it out in public, our response in front of the witness.
Yes.
Okay. Happy to. Your Honor, the state believes that this is part of a common scheme and plan. The defendant, with her co-conspirators, conspired to cause the death of multiple individuals in her world. She is charged specifically with the death of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. She's charged with conspiracy on those issues. And the state's belief in the electronic evidence.
He has literally been charged for Tylee, for JJ, for Tammy, for Charles, and for Brandon. Just so we're all on the same page, how insane that actually is.
Evidence, the telephone evidence, the witness testimonies through those people who participated in these conversations clearly establish a conspiracy to remove individuals who were obstacles to her future life together with Chad Daybell, and to remove obstacles to their plan for this life together. The shooting of at and killing of spouses of individuals who were part of this group was part of this common scheme or plan. The financial benefit to Ms. Vallow Daybell's niece at the death of her soon-to-be ex-husband would have helped finance some of the defendant's travels, lives, and movement on in the future. There will be multiple witnesses who discuss that the defendant talked to people that Melanie Boudreau and her money would take care of them, that Melanie Boudreau and her money would help aid the group's plans for the future. And fundamentally, it is part of a common scheme or plan. It is far more probative than prejudicial. It is part and parcel. The other piece, just from logic in terms of the law enforcement involvement, the shooting at Mr. Boudreaux is what actively got law enforcement paying attention, what actively got law enforcement looking for JJ and Tylee, and it's core to the presentation of many of the law enforcement's assessments of evidence.
Let me tell you something, and just not to keep cutting this off, but it's so actually refreshing just to listen to people who know what they're talking about. Of course, that was Trina, but to listen to real court is actually interesting.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Thomas, the response from the defense.
Just so that I understand, the state is indicating that this is part of a common scheme or plan, and getting rid of spouses is part of the common scheme or plan. Judge, it seems like this is a stretch at best. We'd ask the court not to allow this evidence in. It doesn't, without further foundation,
Right.
through all of these other text messages and whatnot. Mr. Boudreaux can be called after some of these things come in to testify, but at this point, I don't think it's appropriate to allow him to testify about these things without any more foundation.
Your Honor, may I just briefly, this is a chicken or an egg thing. I guarantee you, if the state offered those other items, the defense would be saying it's premature because we don't know what happened. And so in reality, we have the witness here. He had a relationship, and the state is abiding by the previous rulings of the court. We brought it to your attention in camera ahead of time. You've given us a ruling in limine, and we are following that ruling.
Wow.
All right. Well, I do agree it is a chicken and an egg thing, as you mentioned, when looking at this evidence. The court has to consider Rule 404B because it's premised on what may be presented in court. Generally, it's brought up outside the presence of the jury and also in advance of trial. The parties have complied with that procedurally. And so we did have a closed hearing relating to this 404B issue back in February of this year. And on February 22nd, the court issued an oral ruling that as a preliminary matter, I would allow the evidence or not prohibit the evidence under Rule 404B, and also made findings related specifically to this particular witness and what is alleged to have occurred. I've considered whether or not
Very specific argument too, huh?
the order of things should require more foundation before we go into it at this point, but I don't really see a better way other than to admonish and caution the state that at this point I'll permit the 404B evidence to be admitted. However,
I'm gonna go ahead and
at this stage of the proceedings, there's not really a record.
Sorry, I should have skipped that earlier. There's really no reason for us
Mr.
to wait.
Boudreaux, do you have water up there? Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Wow. Hit it with that timestamp though. So the crazy thing is, guys, is that for me, this whole thing happened, but in these last two trials, they had to go dance around everything with Tylee and JJ. There's dancing around all these things being said. This was the all-out gloves off conversation. This was an all-out gloves off. Everything was on the table. Obviously, they tried to get rid of the Brandons, which is still it's all tied together. So this trial is interesting because you couldn't say their names. You couldn't talk about this. So I don't know. What is this break that we are listening to right now, man? What's going on here? I'm going to go ahead past this typing.
On October 2nd. On October 2nd of 2019. Do you remember that? All right, let's back up. Where'd you been that morning?
I had my kids, so when we woke up, I got them ready for school. My two older kids were in elementary school, so I dropped them off at their school. My third youngest went to a daycare preschool, and then I dropped my very youngest off at their mom's house, Melanie.
Melanie Boudreaux's home?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what did you do after that?
After that, I drove to my gym where I worked out.
And this occurred down in Arizona, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Heck yeah, right.
And then what did you do after going to the gym? Did you head home?
Yeah, so I left the gym and I drove home. As I was driving home, I lived on the second house in I would make a left-hand turn onto my street, and I was the second house in.
Okay, let me ask you, how long had you lived in that home?
Only a few days. Like I said, I sold my house previously. And in a rush to make sure that I got my kids, that coming weekend, I had just moved everything myself, and then two of my neighbors noticed me moving. I had just taken
Let me just stop you there. How long had you lived at that house?
only a few days.
Okay.
Wow.
And while you were at that, who knew you lived at that house?
Maybe 5 people.
Okay. And who were those 5?
My neighbors who helped me move, and Melanie, who I had to tell.
Okay. So you're heading home that morning and you turn on the street. What happens next?
As I came around the corner, I noticed there was a Jeep parked right in front of my driveway. My driveway would have been like this, and the Jeep was just parked right directly in front of it. And as I was starting to drive towards it, and I would have had to make a left-hand turn into it, I noticed a few things that stood out to me. The first was that
What were the things that you noticed?
I
What's
noticed.
interesting too is that Lori heard this before, so when she heard trial was coming up, I had already heard him. I didn't know that. I didn't know that he had already told this whole thing in court.
That it was parked really closely, almost touching the van that had been parked there the previous several days. It had a Texas license plate, and it was a Jeep Wrangler, and Wranglers have a tire.
So after this trial, guys, after Lori's, we'll do chats, and hopefully we're trying to do this all before the 25th, whatever day sentencing is, because I want it out of the way. I want the Band-Aid off.
On the back of them, and there was no tire on this one. Instead, the window was kind of hanging open, but like the little tab things were like sitting on the outside of it.
Okay. So you see those things about the Jeep. What happens next?
He's going to take shirtless pictures and sell paintings.
As I drove forward, the window came up, and I saw a gun with what looked like a silencer. I heard a bang, and my driver's side window shattered. And so my natural reaction, instead of turning left into my driveway, I drove an electric car, so it was very instant, but I just pushed the gas and it just shot me forward.
Okay. What happened after your window is shot out?
I continued to drive, and when you're in a Tesla, the electric car, you let your foot off the gas, it brakes. And so I remember when I hit it, my phone flew forward. And then as I kind of came around the corner, I remember letting my foot off. It came back, grabbed my phone. I called 911. I went around the corner.
One day there might be a painting of Ray just right here, just shirtless and eating grapes. This is going too far.
And I parked next to the public pool there for a second. And then I remember as I was talking to the 911 person, I saw the Jeep come around the corner, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I started to try to follow it. And then the person told me that was a bad idea. So I thought it, I'm not 100% sure which, but I went back over and they instructed me to park in front of my house. So I parked in front of my house, and then police arrived.
Okay. Did you give the police the information on that Jeep?
I did, yes.
Okay. And did you follow up with law enforcement down in Arizona?
Yeah, after.
So thanks. And so now my next question is, did you take any?
She's really good. Obviously, she is like making sure he doesn't say anything he's not supposed to, which it's hard, dude. When you testify, your natural reaction, your natural thing is you're just talking. So it's hard to remember that there's a very specific way that you talk in court. It is very different.
Steps after cooperating with law enforcement to identify that Jeep.
I did, yes.
What did you do?
Well, after
my best advice to anybody, and this is why we're going to talk more about like the victim advocacy side of life, but like your best bet as you're sitting there is just to let everybody lead. And I had a really hard time with that because I was getting pissed. But just let them lead you, and then right when you're done, just listen and wait, and then just try to stay within that scope, because they're the more you talk, the more they're going to have to cut you off. They need a very specific answer to a very specific question.
It took all day to go through, like, once this happened, but after a long amount of time in the process, I had met with a detective and talked to him about just thoughts that I had about what was going on. He was just asking me, trying to get a handle on it. And as I was thinking about that, I realized that Tylee had a Jeep that Charles had bought her with a Texas plate that looked exactly like that. And I knew the VIN number because Charles had given it to me. So I gave that to the police officer, to my detective.
Okay. What color was that Jeep?
It was a grayish green color.
Okay. And did the Jeep you saw had no tire on the back?
Correct.
Okay. Did you take any steps then also to provide it? I'm sorry, you told us you gave the VIN to law enforcement. Forgive me. How did you get that VIN?
Charles had given it to me previously.
Yeah.
Why would he give you a VIN?
Oh, I was an insurance agent at the time, and he had given it to me to run insurance across all of their different cars.
Okay. And so you provided that to law enforcement, correct?
I did, yes.
All right. What other steps, if any, did you take to follow up on that Jeep that you believe to be Tylee's Jeep and the shooting at you?
I had called and talked to Adam Cox and Zach Cox because they had also had concerns about everything going on. And
Okay. Other than talking to somebody, what other steps did you take?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you look at any information on the internet
About the Jeep?
or following up on the shooting at you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I did. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, after my shooting, I started to have my beliefs about who I thought did it, and I got concerned about the situation. And so I started thinking back to previous stuff that had happened. And I remembered that in these groups, there were people who I didn't know, but I remember there was a bunch of emails Charles had sent me. So I went through and reread those.
Okay. And did you see any names in the emails that you were looking at? When you say those groups, you're talking the groups of people that your wife was meeting in these firesides?
Yeah. She was meeting a bunch of people that didn't necessarily have, said they were members of the church, but didn't have any like necessary connection to the church. And in that process, some of them would, write books or do things, and she would get into some of this stuff. And I remember distinctly inside of these groups, there was emails that were being sent with a group of them. And so I just went back to look at the emails Charles had sent me from there. And most of them came from a Chad Daybell. And since I didn't know who he was, I started Googling his name.
Okay. And in that process of Googling his name, what did you see?
I was just going through some of the things that were there, and I saw on an obituary for a Tammy Daybell.
Okay. And after you saw that, did you take any steps to follow up on what you saw?
Yes. They made me really nervous because Charles.
Let me ask you the question now. What steps did you take?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Because of how I was feeling, my nervousness, I reported it to law enforcement and told them that in my gut something felt wrong, and I just asked them to follow up.
Now, somewhere in here, did you learn that JJ and Tylee were missing?
Yeah. As things progressed and I came to my opinion about who it was that shot at me, I started to try to be proactive and helping get information, doing whatever I could. And in that process, we found out that no one had seen from Tylee or JJ.
Your Honor, the state is going to ask the court for the admission of State's Exhibit number 5. It has some additional stickers on it that aren't relevant to this hearing, but the sticker is on the back at State's Exhibit 5, which is a self-authenticating document, which is the birth certificate for Tylee Ryan, showing a date of birth of 9/24/2002. And Your Honor, we did not make extra copies of that because it's in an evidence envelope. I certainly can if the court wants.
I've had an opportunity to review that, so.
Thank you.
Um,
That's why we're doing this. We're getting over it.
so to
Man.
be
It's
clear,
almost
it
done.
is marked previously with
Oh,
Exhibit 4 signature.
Christy.
This is State's Trial Exhibit 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Would you show the
You're awesome.
witness? Okay. And just for the record, what does that document reflect?
It says Tylee Ryan.
Your Honor, I'm going to object here. I don't think he has personal knowledge of anybody can just read the document.
Well, and I understand the document. First of all, it's not been admitted yet.
Oh, I apologize.
So let's figure out where we are with that.
I apologize. I thought the court had admitted it. The state moved for the admission of State's Exhibit 5.
Any objection?
As to the document being
Being admitted.
the birth certificate, we have no objection to the fact that it's a birth certificate.
Okay, so Exhibit 5 is admitted. And then you continue with your questioning now that it's been admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. On State's Exhibit 5, which has been admitted, what's the date of birth listed for Tylee Ryan?
9/24/2002.
Your Honor, the state also at this time would offer to the court State's Exhibit number 6. I would give an opportunity to both give it to the court and to ask the witness to look at it. Original on top, court copy underneath.
It's almost done. Enchiladas.
Okay, mine does not.
Okay, good. All right, thanks. Thank you. May I proceed, Judge?
Yeah, well, again, also this has been offered now, but not yet admitted.
Well, I was going to have the witness identify it first, but I want to give it to you before I
Okay.
did that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Do you recognize
Yeah.
State's Exhibit number 6?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What is it?
It's a picture of Tylee from her Instagram.
Okay. Is it true and accurate picture of Tylee in her teenage years?
Yeah.
Okay. Move for the admission of State's Exhibit number 6.
Any objection?
May I vote your aid?
You may.
You indicate that this is a photograph of Tylee from her Instagram, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you recognize that?
I'm friends with her on Instagram.
You're friends on Instagram with her?
Yes.
Okay. And you saw this pop up on your Instagram?
Yes, I have.
You didn't take the photograph?
No, I did not.
Why is that relevant?
You don't know if it's been photoshopped or, I mean, it looks like her, right?
Yes.
But you're not positive that whatever's on the photograph or in the photograph is legitimate. You weren't there when the photograph was taken.
I was not there when this photograph.
That's where she got that line of questioning. What the are you talking about? Were you there? Is this where you got it, Lori? I'm sorry, that was a dumb question, bro. What are you trying to prove? Is you're trying to say it was photoshopped, AI'd? What's your angle here? That's a weird thing to
was taken.
The only objection I have is that it's not an original. We don't know who the photographer is. We don't know if it's been photoshopped. We don't know if it's been altered in any way.
All right, understood. Response?
Your Honor, that's not the foundation for the admissibility. If defense counsel's concerns, they go to the weight, not necessarily the admissibility. This witness has said he is familiar with the person who's in the picture. He is familiar with her Instagram, and he knows whether it's a fair and accurate depiction of Tylee Ryan.
What a argument.
All right, I've considered that objection. I think what we have here is it will be admitted for illustrative purposes in terms of evidentiary value without further foundation about who precisely or when took the picture
Does it
or where.
effing matter who took the picture?
If we're going beyond that,
What a
I have
weird
concerns, so
thing
it
to
is admitted for the purpose of demonstrating who is
It's
shown in
her.
the picture.
Dummy.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sorry, that was just what the frick.
Is the machine on?
Yep.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pro, for saying that.
Is that the picture of Tylee?
Yes.
Okay. Now you indicated that you were aware that JJ and Tylee were missing in the fall of 2019, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever learn whether JJ and Tylee had been found?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Where were you when you learned that JJ and Tylee had been found?
I was in my parents' home in their garage.
Okay.
Just trying to breathe.
Sorry, just a second. I was in my parents' home in their garage.
All right. And when you became aware of this issue, did you travel somewhere?
I did. It was the day before my wedding. They weren't certain, so I had my wedding.
Okay.
And then the next day I came up to Rexburg.
Okay. What date was that?
It would have been June 11th.
Okay. Of what year?
Or June of 2020.
Okay. What happened once you got in Rexburg?
I drove up. I didn't know why, but I just felt like I should come up, and so I came up, and I met with Larry and Kay in Woodcock, and
did law enforcement ask you to do anything?
yes, they had asked me if I could identify JJ.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
How did that happen?
I drove, and I did.
Okay. And those were images showed you by Rexburg police officers and FBI agents, correct?
Yes.
Okay. One moment, please, Your Honor. I want to ask you a couple quick questions to make sure I didn't ask confusing questions. To be clear, what date were you shot at?
October 2nd,
Of what year?
2019.
Okay. And then over the next month or so, you did Google searches?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when you saw evidence that Tammy Daybell had died?
I want to say that I saw it on October 21st, maybe. It might have been the 19th. I can't say exactly. It's been a few years since then.
Okay.
I should have reviewed that. I apologize.
Sorry. Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Thomas, will you be conducting your cross?
Yeah, sure.
All right, you can do so.
Just really quickly, I want to follow up on what Ms. Smith had said. You said on October the 2nd, you were shot at, and then over the next few months, you did Google searches. Is that what you said?
Over the next few months, there was times I did Google searches. Yes.
And what were those Google searches about?
Well, the one I think she was referring to was I searched for Chad Daybell's name to figure out who he was and try to get more information on him.
Okay. So you and your then wife, Melanie, were having some issues back in 2018, end of 2018, right? Is that right?
Can you define issues?
Well, I mean, at some point you got divorced, right?
Yeah, but in 2018, I wouldn't say that we were at a point where we were looking at divorce.
Okay. When did that happen? When did the divorce thing come up? In early 2019?
No, not until June of 2019 was the first time it was ever mentioned.
June of 2019. And that's when you had gone off to a business trip and had come back?
No, I was not on a business trip.
Okay. What was it?
I took my family and we went to her parents' house
In Arizona?
in Utah.
Your parents' house?
No, my ex's parents live in Utah.
Melanie's
parents live in Utah, and that's where we were staying, was in her parents' home.
Oh, I see. Okay. And at that point, she said something about she had some issues with you. One of them being that she said that she thought that you were homosexual.
Correct.
And was that based on, what was that based on? Was there any basis to that?
She told me that God had told her.
God had told her that you were homosexual.
Yes.
Relevance. What was that? Why was that relevant? I mean, I know it was brought up, but what does that have anything to do with anything? Why does he ask these questions, man? These questions don't even matter.
It had nothing to do with video that one of your friends had posted on Facebook with you being at the pink pony dancing around?
Correct.
Okay. That was something different?
The only thing that happened with that was after a long argument. I asked her to give me some logical reasons because it didn't make any logical sense. And the only thing she could think of was that she had seen a video of me dancing with someone at a Pink Pony Club, which was available to anybody to see on Facebook. It was just public.
And where's the pink pony?
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah.
I understand this is cross, but it's getting pretty far afield.
All out at this time. It's proper cross.
It's in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And then in, as we indicated, October 2nd, you believe you were shot at, and you believe that the Jeep that held the gun that was shooting at you was a Jeep Wrangler?
Yes.
And you believe that to be Tylee's Jeep Wrangler?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you indicated that you had actually tried to follow that Jeep Wrangler. Is that right?
For a few seconds, yes.
Okay. And did you get the license plate?
I was not able to get the license plate.
How far away from the Jeep Wrangler were you?
At that point, I was very far away. It was,
Yeah, very.
I barely saw it. It was over at the corner of the neighborhood, and I was very far in a distant corner. I just saw the Jeep had come around that angle, and it turned right around and went the other way.
So how far away was the shot that you think came from? You think it came from the Jeep Wrangler? How far away was the Jeep Wrangler from your car when the shot was made?
The car was parked probably a little further than the distance of where you're at to me.
Me to you?
Yeah, a little bit further.
30 feet, 20 feet?
Somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, what the heck is the?
And you indicated that only probably 5 people knew where you had lived at the time?
Yes.
And you don't believe this to be a stray bullet or something other than, you're pretty positive that this came from that Jeep?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see a muzzle flash from the Jeep?
I saw the what looked like, as I described before, a silencer, but I can't say that I saw the muzzle flash.
And was that in your rear view mirror?
No.
So you saw a silencer, but you didn't see any type of flash when the shot was taken?
I can't say for certain that I did.
Okay. It's possible that that shot came from somewhere else?
No.
Why does Brandon have to put up with this crap, bro? These people, these freaking the defense is just wild. This is where she must have got it. And I'm not trying to hate on this guy. I don't know who this guy is. I don't even know who's speaking. But come on. Come on now. Why does he have to deal with this? Like, why question him about the pink pony? Why ask him all these questions? What does this have to do with anything?
You indicated, and I think Council for the State and I were both somewhat taken aback when you said that you knew the VIN number of the Jeep, and you indicated that you were the insurance agent on the Jeep.
I was no longer the insurance agent, but I ran it for Charles. He had given me the information.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he wanted me to price shop, so he gave me the VIN number for each of the vehicles that they had.
And when was that?
A few months earlier, maybe around April.
Okay. And he had done that in an email or a text or something like that?
Yeah, it was just in my text.
Okay. Do you have that text still?
I'm not sure if it was a text or if it was an email. Honestly, I'm not sure exactly how I got that VIN, but I know he gave it to me. He may have emailed it.
Go ahead.
I'm not certain which way he gave it to me.
Did you turn that information over to the police or to the prosecutor?
I did, yes.
That email?
No, I turned over all of the VIN number to the detective at the time.
And they didn't ask you how you got the VIN number?
It was a long time ago. I can't tell you for certain. I just told him the VIN number.
Brandon's really good at being questioned. Brandon doesn't let people slide, and he's very clear. You know?
Okay. You indicate that you were rereading some emails from Charles to yourself at some point. Did you turn those emails over to the prosecutor or to the police?
I did, yes.
Okay. And what were those emails about?
The emails were from Charles to the rest of the family. And then some of them were, in his concerns about what he thought was going on in his relationship with Lori as they went through their breakup.
Yes, very clear.
And separately, there were other emails that were kind of his evidence that he was giving us of these groups that she was meeting with.
Good to have you back.
I'm a little bit confused because you indicate that you were rereading emails. I thought, and maybe this is me, I thought they were from Charles to you, not to his family.
I am part of his family. He sent them to all of us.
Okay. So these were group emails that you were a part of the group email.
Correct.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He doesn't get slid on, dude. Brandon's smart, man. Don't play with him. He does not let people slide, bro.
When you found out that they had found the remains of Tylee and JJ, you indicate that you had a wedding on, looks like June the 10th, and then you went up to Rexburg on June the 11th. Is that right?
Yes, I believe it was the 11th. Might have been the 12th. I didn't review my notes on that either, so I should have.
Okay.
And he's cleared.
And you indicate that you met with Kay and Larry Woodcock?
I did, yes, that morning.
Did you meet with anybody else?
No, I talked to law enforcement over the phone.
Talked to law enforcement over the phone while you were in Rexburg?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't talk to law enforcement over the phone while you were still in Utah or Arizona or where you were living at the time?
For what?
Are you talking about on that specific day?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Or the day before?
He was there.
I can't recall specifically if I met with them. I don't think I did, but I might have met with them in person besides the phone call. I did meet with them in person when I looked at the pictures.
Okay. And so then you said that law enforcement asked you if you could identify Tylee and JJ?
Just JJ.
Just JJ. And so what was that conversation like? I mean, they didn't ask somebody like Kay or Larry or somebody who was closer to JJ, or they just came to you?
I mean, I think I was as close to JJ as Kay and Larry. We were all family. They had initially asked Larry, but it's a pretty overwhelming task to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it was with his health where it was, if it was something he was up for. So I said I would.
So you were there when they were having the conversation with Kay and Larry about who was going to identify JJ?
I was there after the conversation.
So I was actually driving up. I was driving up to Rexburg when I got a phone call, and they asked me to do it, and I was fully planning on identifying JJ, and I didn't know what to do with that. And Kelsey can attest to this. We drove up in complete silence for almost 17, 18 hours. That's how far Rexburg is from Arizona. And then I got a call again to ask to talk about if Brandon could do it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what a burden to put on him. Like, I've never been able to properly thank him or will be able to ever thank him for doing that, because that is just not a task anybody wants. Like, nobody would want to see that. And I don't think you can ever do that. So he did a huge, it's not a favor. Like, he just did a huge service for all of us. And to say I'll do it is one of the most commendable things that anybody could ever do. So I just wanted him to have that moment here, just so you guys know what a good person Brandon is. And he was willing to put himself in that level of trauma. Like Brandon loved JJ, and he, yeah, and that's exactly right. And Ray is exactly the right. Like, we have to remember how real this is. Like, some things just don't ever go away. So he was willing to put himself in that place for the rest of his life so he could do a service for all of us. He put that burden on himself.
And talking to them.
Oh, okay. All right. I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Okay, sounds like we're done.
Will there be any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, that'll conclude the testimony of this witness then. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. You
Thank
can
you.
go ahead and step down from the witness box.
Your Honor, quick question. Mr. Boudreau does not live in this. Mr. Boudreau does not live in this state. And is he released from his subpoena?
Any objection?
Okay. So here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for today. Not an easy day. We're probably going to go a little longer on some of these days. We might be skipping around a little bit. I want to take a minute to just recognize Ray and recognize Brandon and the things that they've done. They've done some unbelievably hard things. I'll never be able to understand where they're coming from, but I can appreciate what they've done. And they did a lot of service for my family, and that's why I'm grateful to have Ray here. It's an honor to have him here. It was an honor to have some of these burdens were lifted by these men. They carried a burden that nobody wants, but I just want to give them their flowers publicly once again. So here's what we'll probably do. I am probably going to set our live tomorrow for a little bit later in the day. And then we're going to continue to just listen to the main bulk of everything. I appreciate you guys. Like, I want you to understand, I also appreciate all of you guys being here and being willing to walk through this with me. Thank you for re-listening if you're re-listening, and thank you for being a support and a family to me and to Kelsey and to all of us. So we love you. We appreciate you. I will let you know as soon as we're going to go live again. Like I said, we're going to have to run through Lori's as I don't want to say the word quick as possible, but we're trying to do it as fast as possible because we also have to watch Chad's, and that one actually is video. That way I can be done with all of it before sentencing, and we can close the book forever. That would be the greatest feeling ever. So, it'll be good for us. So I'll let you guys know as soon as I know what time we're going to go. I might just make a thumbnail for you guys in a video and let it sit, and that way you guys don't have to, it'll tell you in your time zone what time it's going to be live. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. And I will see you guys tomorrow, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.